It's time for Push2Plat, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindy and CJ.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 40 of Push2Plat. Whether you be first-time listener or returned voyage person, we're happy to have you, I suppose. I suppose that's the words I'm looking for. Thank you for giving us a try. Thank you for coming back. Just thank you in general. You can tell it's been Thanksgiving. I'm thanking everybody and everything. Mindy, can I thank you for returning as co-host today? How are you?
You may, and I'm well.
Very good. Now, just before we introduce the guest, I must take a moment here. My understanding is you've been setting up milestone platinums. You put a lot of work into this. This is very important. I understand these things. You have, I understand, set up Bibby and Tina for 550. Is that correct? Congratulations.
No, not really. So the way milestone platinums work, at least on PSN profiles, is the way I thought they worked was it does every 50, and then once you reach 500, it only counts every 100 platinums. Apparently that doesn't happen until I think you reach. So I didn't give any thought to my 550th platinum, and it popped and it ended up being Omnipotent from just some random game I was playing, which kind of works out really well because, that's a cool milestone platinum name, right? But then I remembered I have platinumed True Fear Forsaken Souls Part 2. The trophy list has not gone live yet on Sony servers. And what I can't remember is if I platinumed that before, or I did actually platinum it before I platinumed, I got the Omnipotent Platinum. So what I don't know is if my 550th Platinum will be True Fear Forsaken Souls Part 2, which the Platinum name is Boss, so that's pretty cool. Or if it's going to be the BB and Tina Plat. That's what I don't know.
So listeners, what a long-winded way around us to be finally able to say we do have certified, qualified, milestone-ified, the #1 German horse adventure gamer co-host with us, Mindy. Thank you. So look, let's move straight over to our guest. Awesome human being, lovely person, guide writer extraordinaire, content creator, PlayStation gamer, indie, Queen of the Indies? Why not? Queen of the Indies. Here today to join us, listeners, returning guest, Velvet. How are you today, Velvet?
I'm doing well.
Yes, I'm glad I joined you today. Okay. I get how it is. So look, we've got an exciting episode for you, listeners. Those that have been with us for a while know that we, in the first half of the year, we had Velvet on, and we looked at the first half of the year indie games, I suppose. So today, what we're going to do is look at the second half of the year. So obviously there are a ton of indie games that have come out. We can't possibly cover everything, but we've developed quite a big list, and I'm sure as we go there'll be things thrown in as well. So hopefully it gives you some ideas for some games. One of the things I like about this list, looking at it now, is that there are some games here that really flew under the radar that didn't get a lot of attention. So hopefully today we can expose you to them if you don't know about them, maybe draw some attention to them and get you interested and excited, because a lot of these developers, we know they're not big AAA developers. Money is important to them. They live from game to game, whatever you think. This is the reality of the situation. So these developers need you to buy their games, and not all these games are equal, I understand, and some of them are expensive. So hopefully we can throw some ideas at you today and some reasons why they could be a good investment of your time and your money. I think that's fair to say, Mindy and Velvet. Is that correct?
That's fair.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, look, listeners, what we're going to do is we're going to do away with, all the garbage that we normally put in to fill in time, just to suck up a full-length episode. And instead, we're going to go across to, Mindy, do you know what we're going to go across to here?
What have we been playing?
Not yet. There's something that has floated across my desk.
Well, I do have some shopkeeping with Velvet. I'm going to go ahead and mention Mega Man Metrovania. I know you entered it last time, but I just need to mention it every episode. So that's done. And then we have our new
You
segment.
don't even need to answer anymore, Velvet. That's great. We've
Well,
shortened
she
it from
answered
yes,
last
no, or
time.
pass. Yes, yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Velvet, since you were last on, have your opinions on Mega Man and or Metroidvania games changed?
Completely. Just kidding. No, they have not.
This whole episode is taking a new direction. Oh, I like it. Sorry, Mindy.
And then since you were last on, I have been forcing a segment called we haven't actually named
Oh,
it.
yes.
But basically it's explain your PSN name. And so if you're cool as with giving out your PSN name, I would like to know why you chose it.
Stupid. I hate this story. No, mine is. Like my reason. Not this segment, I'm
Oh.
sorry. That was like poor timing. Yeah. I mean I've explained it before, but I'm okay with doing it again. It's an embarrassing story to me, so I'm just like, oh, okay. But we used to have these remote control helicopters that we would play with, and basically I got smacked in the face with one. I got a nosebleed from it, and one of my friends was just like, it looks like velvet. So we came up with blood velvet.
So now your username is going to haunt you forever. Every time you log in, you're reminded of that.
So here's what I think you should do. I think you should
Oh my gosh.
adopt because when you were on, I titled our the episode you were on Blood Velvet in that slow southern style. Because like, the song Black Velvet. I think you should steal that and say that you named it after the song, but you named it Blood because it's like, I don't know, creepy and goth. So you're gonna have to become a goth now in order to line up with that story.
That's the only way I can continue. That's the only way. I gotta own it. I gotta own it.
So, listeners, that was our new segment where we tell you what your PSN name means. Look forward to that in the future. Thank you, Velvet. Is there anything else there, Mindy? Shall we move on?
Well, apparently you have a surprise for us, so let's hear it.
Look, I do. So in the tradition of the retro games quiz, the Lego game quiz, I thought today it was only fitting to have a Know Your Indie Game quiz.
Oh well, I'm screwed.
no.
I'm screwed, but okay.
I'm a horrible test taker.
Well, most of these you've played, Mindy. In fact, well, you should know of them. They're only indie games from this year. But I thought, we're not going to do trophy names because we've done that, or whatever else. Instead, I thought I would rewrite the PSN description for the game, and you could tell me what the game is.
Is this like that Twitter game, like describe a movie badly?
Well, I don't know. I suppose you can tell me after. Some of these are harder than others, I think. But I can give you a hint after if you need it. The hint will be the developer. I think once you know the developer, I think it will become very easy. So we'll try it without the hint first. But if we get stuck, we get stuck. So the first one: outdoors, sun, sand, and water. Hammers, jumping, dashing fingers. Through special challenge or quadrennial games, if by another name. Choose your favorite competitor, equip yourself with turbo controller, onwards to the podium, in pursuit of gold, not rhodium. Congrats, you champ, on a new time stamp. What game am I?
I think it's going to be something really obvious, but I have no idea.
Oh, come on.
Velvet, any ideas on this?
Am I allowed to guess?
Of course,
It's Smoot.
of course.
Smoot Summer Game.
It is indeed Smoot's Summer Games, yes, by Jandusoft from earlier this year. And Velvet, this is a finger masher game, isn't it?
If you don't have a actually, yeah, because you can't use the turbo for everything. So yeah, it's definitely like a hand masher.
Yeah,
really.
a hand masher, that's right. And the lovely thing about this game is the swimming events. The direction inputs that they with the sticks are not always the quickest ones. You can actually improvise and find quicker ones. But look, that's a lovely game. And as you reminded me, Velvet, it has a stack, which was a surprising find for me. But yeah, excellent. So onwards to the next game. Here, Mindy, better luck this time. Through turning worlds of impressionistic colors and haunting score, I am but a series of terraniums book-ended by musical puzzles, but not a chore. Simple in style, you replicate my owl-like roar. As the broken moon bears down, you can, my little friend, explore. Reunite the ghostly night's fear, I must implore. Across a virtual space, but need not fear, I still embrace a console base.
I thought I was going first. It's Luna.
It is Luna.
Oh, I haven't played Luna.
Oh.
Oh, what a shame. See, I had a fantastic hint for that too. I was going to sing the Muppets Manumman. But what a shame. What a shame. Now, how do I say this, Velvet? Is it Phenomena, LLC?
Phenomena.
Phenomena. Yeah,
Phenomena.
of course it is. Phenomena. Of course. Of course. Let's go on to the next one. Nature sparked contemplation in an introspective play. Use boxes and levers to open the way. Love lost or gained, this journey you take. Choose to engage or simply fake. Across islands of colour, do creatures of figment arise? Look down upon by totems left to advise. If love is the fuel, the force that drives us, then follow your heart, nevertheless, on a journey to coalesce. Little harder, this one.
So you said boxes and levers, and it made me think of Bird Game, but then I'm thinking Figment, but then you said Figment.
This is a tough
So
one.
that's a red herring. Have I played it? Because I haven't played the two before.
I think possibly yes. I know Velvet definitely has.
Yeah, I think I know.
Go ahead. You're gonna win this game. I'm just gonna say.
Only because color was involved. I'm gonna guess it's Newt 1.
It is not Newt 1.
Oh no. Okay. So
Would you
color-
like to have another go? I'll read it again while we're waiting. Nature sparked contemplation in an introspective play. Use boxes and levers to open the way. Love lost or gained. That's important. This journey you take. Choose to engage or simply fake. Across islands of colour, do creatures of figment arise? Yes, that is a misdirection, Mindy, figment. Look down upon by totems, left to advise. If love is the
I
fuel,
feel like
the
that's a
force
clue.
that drives
Oh.
us, then you follow
Oh.
your heart,
I got it.
nevertheless, on a journey to coalesce. Yes.
Oh my
What
gosh.
do you think, Velvet?
It's Solo.
It is Solo, indeed. Islands of the Heart. What did you think of that game? It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, I really like that one. I like that it wasn't too difficult, like puzzle wise, and it was pretty calm to get through. So relaxing.
I had another guess for that, and I still would have been wrong, and it was Sea of Solitude.
Oh, that would have been a good guess, actually. I didn't think of that. Yeah, have you played that? I'm not sure, Mindy, if you'd played that one. Islands of Heart.
No.
Oh, it's a good one.
Like I said, I'm not gonna do very well in
No,
this quiz.
no. This one is my personal favorite. Here we go. A question of perspective and questionable style. Nostalgic vignettes of a childhood compiled. Twisting the landscape to elementary puzzle design. A brief respite from the office grind. Guided by a rabbit's frustration, it is but a mere blemish on a journey of stagnations. But temper your frustrations for a shiny new plat. Oh, and what's that? I guess you had to wait and see a late dropping DLC.
DLC. I hate you. I know what this is.
Yes, Mindy?
It's where the bees make honey.
It's great, isn't it? I think that's a very adequate description, do you not?
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty funny.
It's surprisingly difficult to find a word that rhymes with DLC as well. So- Okay, let's move on to the last one. One more. I don't think this one is too hard, but I could be misguided.
Is it a
myself there.
horse one?
No, I thought that would be too obvious, so I left out the horse games this time. Here we go. This is fitting having two Americans on. I feel a product of my time. I am but defined. Outward perspective of a nation's decline. I am but a story in part. Juvenile wolves travelling guided merely by heart. Forced on by an unfortunate deception, their lives fall apart. Ugliness, anger, intolerance, shame, perpetuated by ignorance and blame. A game to smile, laugh, anger, and cry. A wall to keep us safe from our own perceptions, while Sean and his charge seek a future free from exceptions.
I think I know what this one is.
That's all you.
No, I think it's Life is Strange too.
It is indeed, yes. Life is Strange too.
And honestly, I was pulling again. You said wolves, so I was thinking like Lost Ember, and then you said Sean. I was like, oh no, that's the dude from Life is Strange too.
Yes. I was going to leave his name out, but I thought it might have been too difficult without it because I know you both have yet to experience that fantastic game.
Yeah.
Yes. And you'll live for listeners that have played or have not played. It's not a spoiler. They are referred to throughout the story as wolves, and you'll see why when you play it. So if you have played it, that was probably easier. Very well done. Very well done, I must say. I tell you what, I really like being on the end knowing the answers. It's a much better position to be on, Velvet. But look, that's enough of that fun, listeners. Why don't we go in? Because you're here for games. You want to hear about games. I understand that. So Velvet, why don't we have a look at what you've been playing over the last few weeks?
Okay, so there's 2 games. Mindy's gonna love that I mentioned one of them because she's been trying to get me to play it for a while now.
Yay! I know what it is, and I'm happy.
The Adventure Pals. I finally started that one, and it is just as adorable as she said it was. So definitely enjoying it.
That's the one, CJ. That's the one with the boy and his magic giraffe and his pet rock, and that's not euphemism for anything.
Yeah.
Ah, that's right. Yeah. This is the one you wrote the guide for, isn't it? Yeah, I remember this now.
Yeah. I like it that the collectibles aren't too hard to like find. Like they're
No,
pretty,
not at all.
yeah.
It's a cute little game, and everyone should play it. And it's like I think it's like $10 on the store, and everyone should buy it.
Yeah, it's predominantly a platformer, isn't it? That game. Is that correct?
Kind of like a side scroller platformer.
Oh, okay. What else have we got here, Velvet?
The other one is Graveyard Keeper. I kind of have to give this one a shout just because a lot of people told me to play it. One person in particular, so I don't know if he's going to listen, but I hope he does. But have you played Stardew Valley at all?
I'm definitely familiar with it. Yep.
Okay, so it's basically like that, except instead of a farm, it's a graveyard. We're attending to a graveyard, but it's really well done, and I'm really enjoying that one. So those 2 are the main ones that I'm kind of working through right now.
This has been on my list, but I really, really, really want it on Vita because this is the perfect kind of thing where I'm like, I don't want to play this on a console. Like I want to
Or you want to take it with you?
I want to take it with me on like do it on my handheld on the bus or while I'm watching TV.
Yeah, and especially if you have like, oh, I just have 5 minutes, I can just go tend to these really quick. Like it's definitely a game
Exactly.
Because this is a pretty big game, isn't it? Like Stardew Valley. Very grindy game.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a good time sink. Like it's a good
Yeah,
version of a
yeah.
time sink.
Is this the sort of game? I don't know how you play these games, so maybe you haven't looked at the guide. But is this the sort of game where you have to plan out ahead, or can you just play it and everything? You're not going to lock yourself out of stuff.
Well, one of my friends wrote the guide, so that's partly why I bought the game because I was like, okay, you wrote this, and he doesn't write that many, so when he does, it's like, okay, I gotta play it. Like I gotta play it. So, so I knew what I was getting into before I started playing the game, just for that reason. But you can play it without one. You don't absolutely need one. I think there's one missable trophy that you have to keep an eye out for, but really you can just go and play as you want. It's pretty open in that sense.
Now, I'm going to ask you about this game because I don't know if you're going to mention it otherwise, but I'm interested. This Monster Hunter World. So you've been playing this over some time. Is it drawing you back in, or is it just sort of oh, it is, yes. Okay. So what do you like about this game?
Kind of.
Because this is different to what I imagine you would play normally, this type of thing. So
it's very different. It's very different. So this game is, I don't know how to describe it. I first started it with a couple of friends back in 2017. I want to say maybe 2018, like late 2017, early 2018. And then we just kind of stopped playing it. And then my family started playing it and they were like, play with us. So tried playing it with them, but I was just having trouble getting into it. And then there was a side event over on .org that I needed a trophy from this game for. So I was like, okay, well, I have the game. I've already started it. Let's just go and get the trophy. And then I kind of forgot how much fun it was hunting down all the like animals and monsters and just trying to take them down. Like I definitely enjoyed playing it even just for a day after like a year. But yeah, if you're really big into open world and just really quest heavy games, this one's pretty good for that.
Now, are you gonna go for the platinum on this one, or is it just you're gonna take what you can get?
I'll need help. If I go for platinum, I will need help. I don't know if I can do it on my own.
Mm. It's definitely a game you need to play with other people, isn't it? This one. This is not.
It's more fun with other people, and it will definitely be easier if you play with other
Yeah.
people. I don't even know if you can solo it, to be honest. I'm not even
Yeah.
sure.
Can I ask you a question? Because I've literally only dropped into this game briefly, and it wasn't for me. Although I'm not adverse to these type of games. What part of the loop do you like in this game? Because my understanding from the limited amount I played, you go out, you hunt the monster, you come back, but you do a lot of the same sort of thing, don't you? Hunting that's the loop in itself. So what is the attraction? Is it a like ding system? Like what?
Yeah, so you basically you start off and you can only kill the little things like, oh, I'm just gonna kill this little dinosaur. Oh, I'm just gonna kill this little monster. And excuse me, you build up an encyclopedia as you go by tracking animals, collecting flowers, collecting like honey, like all sorts of stuff. So you build up your encyclopedia of the game, and as you level up, you can go against much bigger and stronger monsters that will certainly
Mm,
kill you if you are not paying attention. So the challenge comes from first, the start is kind of slow because you do need to level up and get yourself
mm,
to like a strength to go forward. But the later monsters, it's really, at least as far as team play goes, it's really a team effort taking them down, and I really enjoy games that do that.
My last question on this, then Mindy, if you have anything, is it the sort of game where you can easily lose like 3 or 4 hours without realizing?
Yes. Yes. Okay,
Perfect.
so this will probably spent a good hour and a half just in character creation. So
Yes.
it's one of those, like, you can do whatever you want. Like, there is a goal in the game, but you can kind of just play as you please.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. If only there were more hours in the day. Good.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of these games on your list we're going to cover coming up in the topic. Is there anything else you want to throw out? Or actually, there's one more if they're not that I'd like to ask you about.
Okay.
Uh, here because I don't know a lot about it, but I see you've almost. I'm not sure if it has a plat or it's 100%. You've almost finished it. Sorry, it's 100%. The Jackbox Party Pack
I
6.
knew you were looking at that.
You're a fan of these? Yes.
Yes, I am probably the biggest fan of these games. I've played them all, but I'm only missing completion on 5 and 6. So when 6 was announced,
Hmm.
I was like, well, I have to pick it up. Like, I need this. And I play a lot with my family, so I usually host when we go. But this one, I feel like they kind of hit a plateau with 3 and 4, and then 5 was kind of, it wasn't that good. So 6 was like, okay, this is their comeback. Like, they're knocking it out of the park on this one. And usually with the older Jackbox games, you can play with friends, even if you don't know them that well, and still have a pretty good time. But this one, you really kind of have to know the
Hmm.
people you're playing with. So if you don't know like their
Hmm.
personalities or just general stuff about them, it makes it a little less fun and a little hard to get through the games. Uh, but it's not, it's better than 5. I'm liking it better than 5. But the trophy that's missing is a luck-based trophy. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
we'll
Oh,
see
perfect. Yeah.
when that comes around.
It's always a diverse look into your profile. I find there's always bits of everything, so it's fantastic. I enjoy it. Mindy, is there anything you'd like to ask about or have a look there, or are we happy?
The things I want to ask about are stuff we're going to ask about later, so no.
Cool. Well, let's move on then. Mindy, what have you been playing this week?
I dove deep into the backlog because there is, like Velvet mentioned, there is a side event over on PlayStation Trophies right now, but it's a different side event than the one she was talking about. The one that's currently going on is to either platinum or 100% one game that released in each year of the past decade. So I went way deep into my backlog for this. Started out with Frobisher Says, which is an old Vita game, free to play, but there's some DLC that you can pay for. That's basically it's just a tutorial for the Vita, but it's a whole bunch of mini games of which are just ridiculous jokes. It's cute and random and kind of a frustrating 100% to get because there's no way to choose individual mini games.
It's luck-based. Yeah.
Yeah. So the entire it's not hard. Like once you get the mini game you need, the thing you need to do for the trophy is not difficult. It's just waiting for the mini game to come up in the rotation. So what I actually ended up doing was I installed the base game and both DLCs. I ended up getting all of the trophies in one of the DLC packs, so I uninstalled everything, reinstalled it with only one of the DLC packs, ended up getting all those trophies, uninstalled it, and then reinstalled just the base game just so I wasn't getting repeats of all the DLC games. And I think it still took me another, I don't know, 45 minutes to get the rest of the base game stuff. But it's cute. You know, you could do a lot worse on the Vita, especially for a free game. It's the same reason I 100%ed Knob Switch, which is basically just a tuning, like a musical instrument tuning game.
Yeah, I don't know this knob switch, and I noticed before we started today in the evolving chat that we had for some time, this game came up, and you talked about using a tuner app or something. So, what exactly is this game? It interests me.
It's not a game.
Oh,
It's
okay.
really not. It's basically you hit the L1 trigger on the Vita and it plays a note, or it tries to, because I don't know if my Vita speakers are crapping out or if it's just the Vita's capability. And then you hit the R1 trigger and hear a different note. And what you have to do is say how many semitones
Oh,
are in between those two notes.
okay. So it's like an ear trainer almost.
Yeah, it's more of a trainer. And so I have a bit of a musical ear. I took musical lessons when I was younger, but I don't have a sophisticated enough one to get through this whole game unaided. So I got a tuner on my phone, and so I was just playing the notes to the tuner on the phone and putting it in. But I did this one because for a different side event, I had to earn trophies from a game that Velvet had written a guide for. And I knew she'd recently done Knob Switch, and I knew I could get trophies from that really, really quickly. So I did that. I didn't think it would take me another year to finish the game, but it did. So my completion time on this game, that should be, an hour, is a year and some change.
It's a good chance that will never be beaten,
Oh,
Mindy.
yes,
So
I'm a
you can
record
you can
holder.
you can
Record
retain that.
holder.
But forget about being the fastest achiever. Someone will always beat you in the end, but the longest achiever, yeah, that's I
That's
like it.
very
Yeah,
true.
knob switch. It's an unfortunate name, but anyway.
And then two more. I'm just gonna mention BB and Tina at the horse farm because I know you're gonna get mad at me if I don't.
I think it's great that you're expanding your collection. Is there going to be a comment on that game or not? How'd you find the
I don't know,
collectibles?
man. This game hurt my brain. Like, it is so, and maybe it's just because I
Yeah.
played it so close with Biala, but like Biala is a masterpiece compared to that game. There's just nothing to this game.
Mm, mm,
It felt like there wasn't a lot of effort. It was just
mm.
I don't know. Is the other one like that? The other BB and Tina game?
Pretty much a copy, yeah. Yep.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yep.
And then the other one I played was Cronus Arc, which was
Mm,
another I believe it's a Chemco RPG on the Vita, also on the PS4. This one
mhm,
is skippable. It's not very good. It's not bad. It's just kind of super generic. The story's not very interesting. It doesn't even have a platinum. It's a 100% list. And the game really does not tell you that you really should be involving yourself with the class change system in the game.
right.
So while, when you move to each area, there's a difficulty spike in the battles, like it can absolutely knock you flat. The end boss is no joke. It does that awful thing where there's two final boss battles back to back, and it does not let you heal your
Mm,
characters in between fights, or does not auto heal your characters in between fights. So I went in with a nearly dead party into the second boss battle, knowing that if this boss knocked me out, I'd have to do the whole damn thing over again. But thankfully, that did not happen. But this one is skippable, I think, unless you're specifically trying to do all of the Chemco RPGs. This one is very, very skippable. Definitely do not pay full price for it.
Can I just ask I thought most of these Chemco games, they do have a plat though, don't they? But there's a few that are obviously 100% as well. Are there?
Yeah, most of them have a plat. This one does not, which surprised me when I was playing to realize that half of the trophies are literally just play the game,
Mm.
and the other half are do all the side quests, which is common for Kemco. Like, a good portion of the trophy list will be
Yeah.
do all the side quests, and it breaks it up into the individual areas,
Yep.
and it'll be like do all the side quests in town A, do all the side quests in town B. So that itself is not surprising, but the fact there's no platinum in a it's not like this is one of the first Kemco games that came out.
Mm.
This came out I think last year. So that is surprising that it did not have a platinum.
The good news on that trophy list is at least it doesn't have that annoying trophy of opening all the treasure chests that Kemco love. That seems to be in all their other ones, which I don't
That
know
is
if you find
true.
that frustrating, but that can be, especially if you miss one, that can be very frustrating. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Good. And anything else you'd like to throw out there?
No, that's pretty. I've got something else, but we're recording again in like 2 days, so I should probably save it for that.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Well, I don't want to hold us up, listeners, because I'm very eager to get into this indie topic. But to say that, I'll just throw out, because we're not going to talk about it today, this creepy road, because I believe we talked about it earlier in the year anyway. But look, it's a very I don't want to say simple, but it's not challenging. Either in the middle, I suppose, 2D platformer. It's very similar to that Guns, Gore and Cannoli. Is that correct? Number 2, I think that's how we say that. So if you like,
Is it a platform or is it a twin stick shooter?
well, it's a bit of both. There is some platforming elements in it. There's some side scroller elements. Some of the levels are different. So it's very much like the Guns, Gore and Cannoli. I hope I'm right in that pronouncing that name of that game too. So
You are.
yeah, I'm right. So it plays in the same way. The one problem I had with this one, though, I don't know, I don't think you've played this one, Mindy, is that it seems to be designed in a way that the levels are, they're all loaded up within themselves, but it can lag something fierce if you leave too many enemies behind you. So there's a couple of levels. There's a flying level in particular where you're forced forward on a rocket, and if you don't kill enough of or this was my experience, enough of the enemies, by the time you get to the end, the lag and the screen drops. It's really tough to play, and of course there's a little bit of maneuvering to avoid certain things. It becomes really challenging. The funny thing was that only happened in the EU version for me, so I don't know if it was just my system, although I played both the NA and the EU on the same system, so I'm not sure. Or maybe just for that one I tried not to kill didn't kill as many. The reason I bring it up, listeners, is I realized I had a feeling halfway through the game, and this is why I stacked it, is that you could probably run through a lot of the levels and not worry about killing people and jumping a lot, because it has this funny jump mechanic where you sort of jump before you touch the ground, so you can in effect just keep jumping over everything. So, and in fact, the last level you can drop down between platforms and probably finish it in 30 seconds, which I'm sure is not the intention, and that obviously leads to more of this screen drops and lagging and stuff, but it is possible. So look, it can be as hard or as easy as you want to make this game, but look, I thought it was quite fun, so I would recommend it. And I think if you're doing that, the cheese method, I think you could finish this game in a couple of hours easily, and if not, maybe 3 or 4. It's not much longer, so I'll throw that out there. I'm quite enjoying that. And the only other one I'll throw out, but no spoilers obviously, because episode 5 has only just released, is Life is Strange 2, and I know you're very keen to play this, Mindy. Do these games interest you, Velvet, or not so much?
They do. Yeah, I've been waiting to start the second one until the last episode came out. So Mindy and I are kind of in the same boat with that.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I won't spoil it. I mean, it's been a long time coming, but look, to Don't Nod's credit, they hit every date that they said they would release the episodes. There hasn't been delays after the second episode, my understanding is. So, that's great to see. And I mean, if you've been playing it from the beginning, to get to this point has been, it's been over a year, like, sort of 14 months or so. So it's quite an epic journey. I think this game is very interesting. I'll be fascinated to hear what you think, Mindy. It's a big shift from the original Life is Strange and even the prequel, Before the Storm. This, especially as it gets on from episode 4, particularly 4 and 5, it's not really a game at all. I think you could say it's a visual novel, really, with animated movement sections or whatever else, and which for me was fantastic. I thought it was great. It's very narrative heavy, but if you thought the original Life is Strange was light on gameplay, then you're going to have a problem with this game. But if you're happy to just make choices with limited sort of movement and stuff, I think it's great. It does have a funneling effect of the choices a little bit at the end, I think, which is a shame. But having said that, I thought it was very powerful. And I think it's refreshing to see a French developer, or any developer, I suppose, outside of the United States, not afraid to make comments on the current state of the world. This game, in every episode, makes some very political statements, I think. I think you would agree if you'd played it, particularly at the ending of the game. And I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating to see, creators from around the world starting to voice their opinions, and, not potentially being as worried by the financial implications, which we're seeing in other countries is an issue perhaps at this time. So look, if you're going to play it, I think you can interact with it on one of two levels. You can choose to ignore all that, but it is definitely there, and just play it for a story which is beautiful. It's sad, extremely sad, but a coming of age story, and struggling with life problems that you should never have to struggle with at that age. If you do engage deeper, there is a lot there to be said, and a lot of conversation. So, Mindy, I have a feeling we may line this up for a deep dive into the future at some point. But I don't think I'll say any more on that one at this point.
Let me ask you one thing though before we move on. I've heard most of the people I know who have played both games say they like the first one better.
Yes.
Where do you stand on that?
I think that comes down to how much gameplay is important to you. The first one had, they're walking sims by nature, narrative walking sims. The first one has more of that element. The second one, particularly as it goes on, by the third episode, but definitely the fourth and fifth, they become, like, as I said, interactive movies, I suppose, more so than that. They're far more the dialogue is far more important. In fact, the fifth one is really all set in just one area, which, it's a little shorter than the others as well. But for me, I think this is a really great direction. I think there's a lot of games that, walking sims that offer a good mix of gameplay and narrative. I don't think there's too many that just offer narrative and offer it well. And I think this is one. And I think for them to move this far in one season, from the opening episode to where they ended up in this style of gameplay, I think it hopefully means that this is the direction they're going with their new title to be released next year. And for me, I preferred this one more, but I can totally understand that this one will potentially receive some dislike compared to the others. So, but look, I don't think it's an issue, because I already see they're selling it for half price. So, if you're on the fence, you don't have to pay the original full price, full game that they were charging. So, but with that in mind, go in knowing that, and I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, what would be very interesting is, Mindy, you're sort of a bit apolitical anyway, but for somebody that leans on the other side of this game, I think it would be very interesting to hear how they feel about it, because I don't think it paints the other side very well, but typical game being liberalistic in nature, I suppose. So look, I don't know. I would definitely recommend playing it, but then, listeners, the sort of games I like. So I think this falls well within that category. Yeah. So look,
But none of them are wearing sundresses, so no, I don't know why it falls into that category.
well, everything falls into my category. It's just no. Look, I think it's a beautiful game. Like I think there's a problem with many games, not saying anything these days, or towing the middle line or whatever else. And I think, without detracting, I think the middle ground is so well covered with AAAs and even with many indies today that it doesn't hurt to have a smaller ground somewhere with games that actually have an issue, have something to say socially, politically, personally, or whatever. But I understand that, not everyone plays games for that reason, so maybe there's a little bit too much reality in this particular one for you, or, maybe not enough. I don't know, but yeah. I don't want to go too further down that line, because I may be annoying people with my views now, Mindy, I feel. But look, let's wrap that there. Let's go across to the topic for this week: indie games. Now, I think it's pretty fair to say between the three of us, we play many of these games that would fall into this category. But Velvet is definitely the master here today. So why don't we let you, Velvet, start us off?
Last time, if you just remember, we had Velvet on. We did kind of an indie game roundup from January to July, June,
July, August-ish.
Mhm.
July of this year, and so now this is kind of the back half of the indie stuff. Last time we had a very nice list that was, started in January, ended in July. This one's going to be all over the place. Just fair warning, we're not as organized this time.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean CJ.
It's a list.
Well, it's a list. I don't know that we're so not so organized. I think, and I'm sure Velvet would attest to this and agree that this last quarter in particular, there has been a ton of games dropping.
Yes.
I mean, even now when things should have finished this last week, there's been a lot again. So there's a lot coming, and I think it's impossible for any one person to really touch on all of them with any depth or understanding. But as I said before, we've obviously will miss some that perhaps you know about. If that's the case, please let us know about them through the various mediums to contact us. But we'll do our best with the ones that we have here. And there is no better Sherpa to guide us through this indie field of games
And ones that
than
we've
Velvet.
played, by the way. That's another thing.
Yes.
We're not just listing everything. We're listing ones that at least one of us have
We
played.
tried to
Yeah.
play everything. Tried to.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
impossible.
that's right.
So many
That's
games.
that's right. That is very true. So how about we kick it off, Velvet? And what would you like to start with? Should we start at the top of the list with the Perplexing Orb?
Yes, we can start there with my love of Treefall Studios. But this is the second game the first game they released this year because Pitterpot came out last year. Almost had the trifecta of platinums for them, but this is the balancing ball rolling puzzle game that was done really well. It's pretty short, but definitely, I think almost everybody I know at least attempted to play it, if not got the platinum on it.
This is really similar to like Super Monkey Ball or like even Marble Madness, right?
Oh, more Marble Madness than Monkey Ball,
Mhm.
because Monkey Ball, you're actually in it and you kind of have to balance all over the place for that one. But he did a pretty good job with keeping the physics of the ball, but not to the point where it's like you can roll on a ledge without gravity being like, I'm gonna get you. So I really enjoyed that because Marble Madness did that, where it kind of felt like it was really heavy, so you would just easily fall off
Mhm.
everything. But this one, it was smooth and it was lighter, for lack of a better word. Uh,
Oh man, now I have the Marble
yeah,
Madness music stuck in my head, and it's just gonna be there for at least a week.
It had a nice difficulty curve as well, didn't it, Velvet? Like, I mean, overall, it wasn't difficult hugely, but it did increase a little bit as it went on.
it did. One of the things that I liked about it, and I didn't figure it out until because I was going to do videos, and then I was just like, other people done videos, I don't want to do them. But you can use the analog sticks or the D-pad, and some levels it was so much easier using the D-pad, whereas usually the
Mm.
joystick has a lot more control, and it was almost like, oh, I almost feel like I'm cheating doing this right now.
Mm.
But I like that you could switch back and forth with whatever was comfortable for the levels.
Yeah, perfect. And if you haven't played it, listeners, this is about, should I say 2 hours, Velvet? Is that right, or am I being generous there? Or
Yeah, I would say three tops. Like it's not too
3?
difficult. There's only I think seven worlds and maybe 30 levels tops. There's not even that many levels. It's pretty short.
Yeah. It is pretty short. And I remember from memory, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a little bit of grinding, but very short at the end for collecting something. I forget what they were,
Oh,
shapes
you
or
had
squares or whatever.
yeah, the little cubes you had to collect. I can't remember
Cubes.
the actual name of them, but to unlock the bonus levels, you had to get, I think it was 400, 450. So you did have to do a little bit of grinding after you finished the game to actually get to that number, but you could just replay the
Yeah.
same couple of levels and get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very non-evasive. Good.
Yeah.
So why don't we move on now? I don't know anything about this game, so I'll be guided by both of you here because I know you've played this. Or written a guide for it as well. The Bradwell Conspiracy.
Yes. So this is I'm going to call it a Portal knockoff because that's basically what it is. Have you played the Portal games before?
Yes.
You have. Okay. So that same sense of interactive puzzles to move on with a story is how this game was. And it kind of had obviously a conspiracy theory undertone as far as the story goes. And you're just trying to get out of this museum like building after it blows up. But yeah, so you're just going through and completing each room, which is its own unique puzzle to get to the end. And it's pretty short. I actually used Maka's guide towards the end. So he deserves the credit for my written guide because I definitely used his video guide for the ending because I got stuck, which I'm kind of mad about.
So is this, when you said like Portal-esque puzzles, is this a bit like Cube as well? Cube 2, but with a story basically, or a narrative?
I did not play that
Oh,
one,
okay.
so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds.
I've been meaning to.
Yeah. Is it worth your time, would you say, or?
That depends. If you're looking for like a deep down story or anything, you're probably not going to get that. It does have the same kind of humor as Portal, not as a robot yelling at you, but you do have somebody talking to you that's like cracking jokes the entire time. So there is that humor side to it, and I don't think it's that expensive. I want to say it's maybe $14.99 tops, if that. I don't think it's a 21. But yeah, it's pretty short, maybe 3 hours. So if you can, I do recommend it.
Yeah, the Bradwell conspiracy. And Mindy, I just wanted to ask you, because I remember you mentioned this. This is the game that had in the first area or first level a lot of screen tearing.
Frame rate
Frame rate,
issues.
yes.
Like really bad tearing and frame rate issues.
But that solves itself as it goes on, you said.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's one to look out for. Now, Newt 1. It's a charming game, Mindy. What are your thoughts here?
It's cute. It's got my number one sin with platformers is that the controls are not solid. I think I mentioned when I talked about this whenever I actually played it, the controls are a little floaty. So when you land, your character actually pops forward a little bit after landing, and you're actually, for some of it, you're jumping on very
Mhm.
small platforms that are actually birds, like tiny birds that'll build a bridge to your next platform. And so sometimes you'll just hop right off of them. And thankfully, there are no trophies for completing levels without dying or falling or anything, so that's fine. But it is annoying. And then, of course, with those bad controls, they then made a uh, snow and ice level where all the platforms are slippery, anyways.
It's
So
great, isn't
that's
it?
fun. But it's cute. It's wait for sale,
Yeah.
I think, but it's not worth playing.
Does it overstay its welcome though? Because it's not that short either. This is like 4 hours. Is that correct, or longer?
I don't think it does overstay its welcome. I think if it had gone on any longer, yeah, it probably would have. But even once you get the platinum, there's only one more stage, not even like a world of like 5 or 6 stages, just one stage that you can play that's totally optional. So no, I don't think it's overly long. I think it's just fine.
Okay, good. So, listeners, Newt 1. That we would class that as spam. I think we did at the time, Mindy. So that could be one to look out for. Now, Velvet.
It is spam, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't say that's spam.
Well,
Wait,
it's in terms of length of game. It's not, spam does not mean bad.
no.
It just
No, I
means
know.
it's quick and easy platinum.
Yes, yeah. See,
Oh,
Velvet,
for sure.
what's
Okay.
happening here as this show evolves is slowly everything is becoming spam. Last week we discovered middle class spam, the shrinking middle class. So look, everything is evolving into this. It's a wonderful category. I think, look how we'll be able to justify AAA games in there shortly. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. So
Maybe a spam category in the store.
yes, wouldn't it? Look, I'm looking forward to that. That'd be fantastic. That'd be my section. I wouldn't have to leave there. So, Velvet, stranded sales. Now,
Stranded sales. Oh, man.
educators.
This is yeah. Okay. So this kind of falls into an annoying category of at least third quarter and now some fourth quarter games where they're getting released broken. And Stranded Sales was really, really guilty of doing that. I don't know how much nicer I can say that, but they released a broken game. There's no other way to say it. The amount of patches that they've had to do and the amount of issues and the big game breaking issues that the game had when it was first released was an uphill battle. It was very much an uphill battle to the point where there is a guide up on .org that's not finished because I don't know if they're going to complete the game anytime soon. So I don't know what to do in that sense. But The game itself is an open world sort of adventure game where you're on a stranded island and you need to build up your crew happiness so that they can build a ship and everybody can leave. And along the way, you're fighting ghosts and pirate ghosts and collecting all sorts of things, really. So in that sense, it was pretty good. But yeah, it was kind of a mess when it was released, and that's kind of a bummer because I was really looking forward to it for a while.
Is it in a playable state now? Can you?
It is in a playable state. You can get the platinum. As far as I know, most of the game-breaking issues have been fixed, but they are about to patch in new content for the base game. So we're kind of waiting to see how smoothly that goes. But if you do pick it up and play it today, you can complete it without issue. Like the issues they know of have been fixed.
Hmm. See, this makes me nervous, Velvet, when you say that, because I'm familiar with, well, with the game you're very familiar with, the infamous Farm Out. Now, or Farm Together, I should say. Farm Out is where it's ended up for me, but Farm Together, where
Oh,
they did a similar thing by adding content that really, it didn't assist many people at all. So do you think, when you say they'll be adding content, could this have a similar effect, do you think? Or...
yes, I do
Okay.
think it is going to. They already kind of hinted that they're going to up the combat in the game, which right now is completely secondary. Like if you run into enemies, it's just like, oh, there's just an enemy there. Let me just take care of it really quick. Like it's not any trouble. But they said they want to change that to add a challenge to it, which is going to extend a few trophies, mainly the arena ones. Like one of those trophies, you literally have to sit in the arena for 45 minutes and just constantly kill trash mobs over and over and over again. And it's really grindy. So the fact that they're changing that is like, please don't change it to something worse.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to sit there for 4 hours just killing
No.
ghosts
No.
over and over. So and they said they're going to add like quests and stuff. So I don't know if that's going to tie in to the trophies that are already there or if it's just going to be separate new content that doesn't really relate to anything that's already there. So I'm waiting patiently. It's supposed to be coming out soon. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't break anything. But yeah, Farm Together is a nightmare in that sense. So
So Stranded Sales listeners, that might be a buyer beware if you're interested in the trophies
right now,
until that, for now, until that update comes through, but playable by the sound of it. Mindy, the Sojourn. Now, this was an interesting game.
Yeah, talk about the podcast. It's a it's a puzzle game that has a kind of an abstract story. This is the one that I said kind of jokingly reminded me of Bird Box because you keep passing like statues or visions or whatever of people who have come before you and they're all blindfolded like Bird Box. It never really tells you exactly you kind of have to interpret the story based on how all these statues are positioned. But you are a journeyer who is taking the journey that these people took, and you have to, I guess, solve puzzles to clear the way so you can keep going forward. And the puzzles are almost always moving statues, so you can like direct a beam of light to open a gate that's covered in vines. It's not bad. It's just it's a little too samey. There's not enough for all of their different mechanics to the puzzles based on what kind of level you're in. It's still very samey. It's the same kind of puzzle throughout the whole game. So, the first puzzle is move a statue and get the gate to open. The last puzzle is move a statue and get the gate to open. There's just a lot more steps between moving the statue and opening the gate. But it's the same kind of thing. That having been said, it's a very beautiful game. I don't know if it's something you'd want to do in one
Yeah.
sitting.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah. So, listeners, the Sojourn. Now, Velvet, this next game intrigues me. There's very few games on the store that I put in my cart or in my wish list, I should say, and then leave them there for months while I ponder whether I want to go through with it. And part of the reason, listeners, is this was not particularly cheap, although not a full price game, but it was unclear what it
It
was
was up
to
there.
me. It was up there, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Wait, there was a game that came out that you didn't just straight
No.
out
No,
buy?
it was the price was a little high for what the trailer and the marketing was kind of showing for it. So I can see why people would be hesitant
Yeah.
to pick it up right away.
So tell me about this. So listeners, we're referring here to Kine, Kine. I'm going to go with that pronunciation. And
I think that's right.
yeah, so this is it's got a musical element to it, doesn't it? This game or something, I believe.
It does.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I haven't finished it. I've gotten maybe about, I would say hopefully close to halfway through it. But basically, it's a puzzle game where you are rolling sort of a, I don't want to say a log, but just rolling objects to get them to collect music sheets in these levels. And you build up more instruments, you build up a band. Like right now, I'm building up a jazz band to play the jazz music that I'm picking up. So it's musical in that sense that the story is based around just music in general, but it's very
Mm.
heavy on puzzles, very heavy on puzzles, which was unexpected. I'm not really sure what I was expecting going in, but it's the kind that I love. So I really want to go back and finish it.
On a degree of sort of, easy to hard. Where do these puzzles sit? Are they manageable or are they?
That's what I like about it. So it's not like you play the first level and the second level is harder. It's more of an open world and you can kind of pick and choose where you're going to go and what puzzles you do. So it's pretty got a pretty big variety in regards to difficulty. And there are some that I was just sitting there just like, come on, like what am I missing on this? So there are some pretty challenging ones. And then there's some that are obviously like, oh, let me just flip this over and then we're done. But yeah, it's pretty broad on the difficulty spectrum.
Perfect. So, listeners, that is Kine, Kine, and that is a 100% game, I believe, Velvet. That is correct.
Yeah, no platinum.
Good.
No platinum.
So, listeners, we're hitting Velvet's stride here now. I'm looking at what's coming up, and she's really the only one that knows about many of these games to come. So, first off, now Niffelheim. So, this is a big game, isn't it?
This is a big game. Yeah. So this one was kind of personal for me because it was a big guide for a big game. So it was a nice project to tackle, but it's really flown under the radar, which is kind of a bummer because it's really, really well done. It's I don't even know how to describe it. Just an adventure game, but it's a 2D adventure game. And you basically just play as a Viking-like character who has died, but you're stuck in pretty much limbo. So you can't move on to the afterlife. You kind of have to fight through the in-between limbo life before you can actually move on. And you have to just claim your domain and kill a bunch of bad guys to do that. But it's been done pretty well. You're looking at about, I would say about 20, 25 hours put into it. And there is a trophy for completing the game in under 100 days, which I keep telling people I was really nervous about. But you can easily beat the game in like 60 days. So there's a lot of cushion in regards to the trophies. But it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah, I read your guide for this. I wanted to ask, is it like it's not really a strategy game, but is it a strategy game?
No, not really. See, that's why I'm having trouble describing it as, because
Mm.
you can kind of do what you want to do. You just have that 100-day time limit if you want that trophy, but you're basically just going into dungeons and getting materials to build better gear so that you can go and fight bigger enemies. And then you're going into caves to fight the bigger enemies. And then the basic end goal is to get the best gear so that you can go up against the end boss. So I don't know what exactly to describe that game as, but I don't know if I would say strategy.
It seems like it has survival elements in it then.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, that might be better.
It is a sort of like, you're very passionate about it, but having read it and looked a bit about it, it does come across as an intimidating game. So it's good to hear that, it's not as intimidating.
Yeah, so I know, and I was telling somebody that too. I was like, man, this guide like has so much text on it. I'm afraid that people are gonna get turned off because they're just gonna see like a wall of text and be like, oh my God. But don't let that deter you from it. That's just, it's hard to put some things into words and for like guides and stuff, but it's really not that difficult to get a grasp of and to actually start playing and being successful in the game. So if you have the time and really the couple of bucks, I really do recommend it.
Yeah, perfect.
I think I would call this like a survival RPG or like an RPG with survival elements.
That's fair. That's fair.
Mm.
Like RPG, definitely. Like more so that than, yeah, that's fair.
Perfect. Now on to Woven, the rhyming
Oh,
game.
my little, yes, my little fluffy elephant. Did you play this? I didn't.
No.
To check and see.
I read a certain review. I somehow stumbled onto one which persuaded me not to invest in it at this time. But it's definitely a game that would interest me, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. So this game, it's kind of in my top, I would say top 3 game of the year as far as indies go.
Oh, okay.
I just found it absolutely adorable, and that's with like Figment up there. I don't know what the third one would be at this point, but I genuinely enjoyed just such a good collect-a-thon, for lack of a better word. And I played through the game, and it is a platinum game, but the first time I played through, I only got 2 trophies because all of the trophies are missable, like every single one of them, which can be a bit of a turnoff, but it's not so much that everything is hard to find. It's just you really need to look in every corner of the game to find all the collectibles. But it's adorable. You play as a little fluffy elephant stuffed animal, and you have a little mechanical friend named Glitch. And basically the gist is Glitch has lost his memory and you need to go to the moon to get it back for him. And just along the way, adventuring across a fabric-filled land of cotton and wool.
Now, is this the game with the mechanic where you add, look, I want to say body parts, but I don't know if that's correct, or it is.
It is.
Is
okay.
that can you talk to us a little about that? And is that fun or?
Yeah, so I actually, oh man, I wrote a review for this and I actually put that in there. I haven't posted it. So you start as an elephant and then you pick up blueprints along the way of other animals that you can actually change into. So you can change the head, the body, your arms, and your hands. And each animal has certain abilities that they can do. Like the elephant can stomp its feet, the birds can fly, the raccoon can pick things up and push buttons. So they all have different abilities. So you need to mix and match as you go through the game to make the most,
That's cool.
I don't want to say versatile, but definitely, yeah, we'll use that word. But basically the best character that you can, which is fun. But I will say that the further you get into the game, the fun kind of stops, because if you want to look like a giraffe the entire game, you can't, because you have to constantly be changing your body parts to move on with the story. So you're kind of forced to look a certain way as you get further in the game, which kind of kills that whole part for it. But it's still really fun to mix and match. So
okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's an interesting element. Okay, well, that may go back on my list because I was going to wait until I spoke to you about that. So interesting. That is Woven, listeners, and I think that's not too unfairly priced, is it? That's quite reasonable.
Oh, I think so.
From memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Now, sorry, Mindy, we're deep in the velvet territory here. I see, for a few more games before we
really are.
Get to you. But look, this next one now, this one interests me a lot. Deemo. Now, I didn't want to message you because I don't want to distract you, but I've seen you playing this a lot in the last week.
Yes.
Now, as I said to Mindy the other week, this I feel would be the perfect game for her if they took out the music rhythm part, because I don't think that interests her. But the other side of the game, now you must be loving the other side of the game as well, are you? The puzzles and I don't want to say escape room, but it almost is that feel to it, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm actually on I'm on my second playthrough of the game because the first one I did VR mode and I wanted to play through it again
Mhm.
on TV mode to see what the difference between the two are. But yeah, the rhythm or the music section of the game is such a
Yes.
secondary part to the game. Like the actual like fluff of it all is the puzzles and collecting all the music sheets and opening up the rooms and all this stuff, which is just a fantastic part of the game. It's so well done. But yeah, I can't stop playing it. I'm having too much fun.
Can I ask? So sorry, with the puzzles, some of them I feel are, and I think this is, because I don't play a lot of puzzle games, so I think it probably depends how your mind's working at the time. Some seem very straightforward, others seem very, I seem to overthink them, like I don't understand how it works, and then I maybe look up a video to see, it, and I'm like, oh, that's so obvious, but. The puzzles strike me on that end of the spectrum. Do you find some require some more lateral thinking or whatever, or have they all been fairly straightforward and obvious?
Well, there's one I did have to look up one because I just could not figure out. I don't know if you've gotten to it yet, and it's not really a spoiler, but you
No.
have to do the 4 letter blocks and
Hmm.
spell something. I don't know if you've gotten there yet,
Hmm.
but I was stuck on that part for hours, hours of just
Yes.
trying to figure out what word I needed to spell. So finally, I was like, okay, I'm giving in. Like, I need to look this up because I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And the solution to it, I felt so stupid. I felt so dumb.
Yes.
Like, once they showed, I was like, "Really? Like, how did I miss that?"
Yeah. Yeah. One of the my favorite parts of the game so far is, are you going to the basement, and they're basically all the puzzles there are related around sound or music,
Yes.
and I'm sure you remember, Velvet. There's a lovely puzzle. I've played variations of it way a long time ago in a PC game actually, but never anything quite like this, where you actually you stand in front of the conductor and you hear the instruments, and then you need to pick which ones are playing from the instruments in front of you. It's a lovely puzzle. I quite enjoyed
That
that.
was hard.
Yeah.
So, are you playing
Mm.
on TV or VR before?
I'm playing on TV at the moment.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So that puzzle is harder on VR because you don't know that there's a button in front of the conductor because you can't move in front of the conductor. Like you really have to shimmy yourself there. So
Oh.
the first time I was doing it, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, am I supposed to be
Yes.
listening for something? But when I played it on TV, I realized that there was a button and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then if you look at the sheet music, it actually has the, key signatures of the instruments that are supposed to be playing and
That's correct.
stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, on VR, I was just like, "This would have been so much easier if I knew that there was a button there." Like, there was no indication and no, like, "Move here." I didn't know, but
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the hardest one in the game.
Yeah, and if for no other reason, it's lovely to see the bassoon get some love. I imagine there are
Yes!
many players playing that game
Yeah.
that don't even know what a bassoon is.
Man,
So,
I was expecting, like, somebody to call it an oboe or, like, anything. I was like,
yes.
"No, the tall little
Yeah.
bassoon." I'm glad you knew
Yeah.
that.
It's fantastic, yeah. So the only thing I'm going to ask you about this, I think, listeners, this is this Deemo Reborn. It's only come out in the last week or two. It can be played in VR or on the TV, as Velvet says. I think overall the platinum is very easy if perhaps potentially if you needed a guide for some of the puzzles, except for one trophy. Now I don't know if you're a rhythm game player or not, Velvet, but that one trophy is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Is that something you feel you're going to be able to do, or?
Well, yeah, so I'm kinda going back and forth a bit. I play a lot of musical instruments, so, like, I'm used to, like, rhythm
Oh, perfect.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I oh my gosh, it's the difference between the TV and the VR version is so drastically different difficulty-wise, and VR is
Hmm.
so much easier than TV because
Oh,
you feel like you're playing a
okay.
xylophone, like, it's so much fun. If you can play this with VR, I highly recommend it. But the TV
Okay.
version is incredibly difficult. It's I don't
Yes, yes.
I don't know why I'm having so much trouble memorizing 6 buttons, but it's so hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So the trophy CJ is talking about is to get, is it the 80% on all the
Yes,
hard?
80%.
Yeah, okay, so you have to get
Mm.
80% or higher on all the songs on hard. But the songs get crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
So that will be very interesting. It's gonna take me a while. Like I don't know if I'm gonna get it anytime
Yeah. Well,
soon.
that's a good tip on the VR. I'll definitely try because I was wondering if it might be easier or potentially even harder. But okay, that's worth checking out. Lovely. And now Astroneer. Now,
Astro,
what do we know about this?
do you have any interest in this? Did either of you have any interest?
I don't know if I know much about it.
All right. So this game came out on alpha on Steam back in 2016, and I actually got it with my brother when it was in alpha, and then we went through it in beta, and now finally it came out to console. It is super fun. Super, super fun. It's basically a space survival game where you go traveling to other planets to get materials, to build up your base, get bigger ships, get rovers. Just, it's really fun. It's like Minecraft in space, kind of. But I will warn people that as fun as multiplayer is and highly recommended to play with somebody, the game has serious crashing and frame rate issues if you are playing in multiplayer. I'm actually co-oping the guide with Rez right now, and every time we play together, we will have like a 5-hour session and the game will crash maybe 6 or 7 times. So it's pretty bad in that sense. But you can also solo it, minus like a couple of trophies. So I do recommend at least playing it for solo, if not multiplayer, because it's really fun.
That's interesting. Yeah, I just want to pull you up on a point because you did allude to it earlier when we started this topic, and it's something that I've noticed. Like, I'm no stranger to having bought games that are broken, but in this quarter especially, there has been a lot more. I feel that are dicey, aren't they? Like, I'm sure they'll be
Yeah.
fixed, but I don't know what it is. But I think that's part of the reason why I've been hesitant on some of these games because
Yeah. Third and fourth quarter have been really, really rough in regards to broken games, game breaking glitches,
mm,
even just glitch trophies for all the trophy hunters out there. But I don't remember a previous year where there's been this many issues in such a short period of time with new games coming out. But at the same
yeah,
time, this has been a phenomenal year for indies. So I can't tell if
of
people are just
course,
trying to rush them out to like be part of that,
yeah.
or if it's just, oh, we think they're done, so here we go. Let's just wing it.
It's a real shame because I think the window is very limited on some of these games if they can't hit the ground running, and it is a shame if it comes and it's not quite there. I'm not sure, but look,
Yeah.
these things happen. Financial reasons obviously dictate release dates and everything else. Now let's change pace a little bit. Bleep. Well, I think we're changing pace. Perhaps I'm wrong. Bleep bloop.
Yeah.
What is this?
Bleep bloop. Yeah. So this, I love that name. Puzzle game, of course. That's the specialty tonight. Even looking at the list. Play as 2 cubes, and you have to move them from basically the start to the end. And you can only move up, down, left, and right. And if you run into each other, you blow up and die. So you kind of have to go through the level using the cubes with each other to get to the end of each of them. And there's only 25 levels, 5 worlds, and 5 levels each. So not too bad.
Is this spam or is this?
Yes, I would say like more so spam than Newt one.
Mm,
Just because I'm just like, but
mm.
yeah, so I actually raged quit during this game.
Oh,
It's
okay.
well, no, because it's not even I got mad at puzzles. Like it was such a stupid reason to get upset. But there's a trophy for unlocking the bonus game, which is like a block game, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And the developer was just like, "You got to look for a clue," and I was like, "Look for a clue? Like there's no clues. I'm not finding anything." And then the solution is just to put the 2 blocks to sleep, and it's like, really? So
Yeah.
I spent like I would say 3, 4 hours just trying to find some secret door, some secret passage, some clues somewhere just to find out that it's nothing of the
Mm.
sort. But outside of that, really quick, really easy. Puzzles aren't even difficult, to be honest. There's maybe a couple that will give you a headache, but
If you didn't know any better, I mean, this looks like it would be a Ratalaika trophy
No.
list,
yes,
except it's
I thought it was at
longer.
first. Yeah, I definitely thought it was at first. And then I realized,
Except there's bronze trophies and Ratalaika doesn't do that.
yeah, and the platinum name wasn't Bleep Bloop Platinum. So that was the kicker of just like, "Oh, this isn't Rata because it has an actual platinum name."
Nice.
So,
Little palate cleanser.
but I did
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Mindy, welcome back, Mindy. Oprah Dinn.
Thank you.
Well, it's interesting though, isn't it? It's been interesting so far. Oprah Dinn.
Obra Dinn, yes. I love this game. I think everyone should play it, even though it's not for everyone. It's an investigation game that puts your deductive skills to work in a way that a lot of kind of investigation games do not, because it doesn't give you all of the information. You really have to make educated guesses about things. Some things. But you're basically a man trying to figure out how the fates of all 60 people on this ship, whether they died, if they died, how did they die, is anyone still alive, if they're alive, where are they? Really like it. And the way you do that, the way you gather information for it is you travel the ship and you find like skeleton, or you find something is off place, and the game will tell you because you have this like magic pocket watch. And if you're at a place where you can use the watch, it kind of vibrates. And what that means is you can go back in time and into a very kind of small portion of the ship and see what happened at that point when, whatever happened. Specifically so you can see who is there, what happened, because it's not just you have a list of names and you have to kind of check mark what happened to them. It's that you have a picture of everyone who's on the ship. You have to figure out their names because you have a passenger manifest of just names, and then you have, a picture of, it's just a picture. So you have to figure out who each person is, their role on the ship. Are they the captain? Are they are they the cook? Are they a crewman? Are they one of the passengers? And then you have to figure out how they died, or if they're still alive and where they are. Definitely recommended, but definitely not for everyone.
And that's the recent porting, isn't it, to PlayStation 4 in the last couple of weeks?
Yes, it came out last year. It's Lucas Pope, so it's the guy who did Papers,
Mm.
Please. If you liked it, you will like this. I actually like Obra Dinn more than Papers, Please. I know that's probably not a good thing to say, but I do like this more than Papers, Please, and I do like Papers, Please. I played it on PC. I haven't played the console version yet.
Perfect. So Return of the Oprah Dinn, highly recommended there by Mindy. Listeners,
I did write a trophy walkthrough for it. I highly recommend you play this blind. My walkthrough will absolutely kill the enjoyment you will get out of this game. Just even in the never mind the solving things, even just in the exploration of everything, it will kill the enjoyment you will get out of that. So maybe play it blind and then kind of use my guide if you get stuck, or just at the end if are tired of trying to figure out who is who.
let's stay with you here, Mindy. Now, True Fear Forsaken Souls Part 2. So you've been playing this over the last week or two. This is an attainable platinum, correct?
It is an obtainable platinum, yes, but the trophy list has not synced to Sony, and I think I said that earlier. Has not yet hit Sony servers. So this is it's a hidden object adventure horror game. I think it's one of the better ones out there. Let's say it that way. And it's definitely, they're definitely trying to tell a story, because it's definitely assuming that you have played the first game, part 1. This is a planned trilogy. So, if you can't handle the cliffhanger of it, or the fact that not everything is resolved at the end of this, maybe wait. But, this is very much a passion project for the team developing it. It is a small team. I think it's really just one guy with a couple of helpers. But I like it. It's a woman who gets a letter from her, and this is kind of carrying over both stories here. It's a woman who gets a letter from her sister, and she's drawn to this place from her childhood and learns things about her mother that she didn't know. And there's like it's basically Samara from The Ring. Like it's a kind of that Japanese ghost girl with the long black hair and the white dress, I guess, like nightgown, is haunting her, but it's not actually killing her. So there's that kind of question of why, what's going on here? Why does this ghost care enough to haunt me, but not enough to actually try to hurt me? You know what I mean? And so the bulk of the last game was exploring her old childhood home. and learning secrets there, and learning she has to go to this asylum, which you don't do. If you realize that you are haunted, because by this point she knows that there's something weird happening, you don't go to the creepy abandoned asylum. You just don't do it. But that's where the bulk of the second game is in this creepy abandoned asylum where things happened.
Now, Velvet, talking about multiple playthroughs.
Oh,
Ellen.
no, Erica is.
Oh, wow, sorry.
Ellen is another of mine. You're thinking of Erica.
Oh, I'm thinking of Erica. Sorry, listeners. Too many E names. Ellen. Sorry, Mindy.
Because they all came out at once. Like Ellen
They
and
did,
and
yeah.
Erica and Alea, like they all came out at once.
Right after
It
one
was
another.
confusing.
Oh, well, hang on a second, listeners. This is what happens at times. I'm looking at the list. There is no Erica on
There
this
is no
list.
Erica.
That is tragic. So now there is. Sorry, Mindy. We're just going to insert Erica here. But I think you've played this as well, Mindy, so you can comment on this. And Velvet, now you wrote the guide for this, didn't you?
Yes. Well, I had help. I did have help. I can't take.
Oh no, of course,
that's
of course.
I call it a community guide because the PSN profiles community really did a good job of like coming together and like figuring stuff out. I just kind of put it all in one spot. So,
so what do we think of this FMV?
I liked it. I know a lot of people didn't, but I really enjoyed. I don't know. It's hard to describe. I think they did a really good job of recording the scenes in different ways so that it did kind of give you a feel that the storyline changes based on the decisions that you're making. And even after I played through this game like 16, 17 times, but even at that point, it wasn't boring to me. It wasn't dragging. It didn't feel like it was getting dull at any point. Like I still enjoyed it each time I had to go through it, but it's really good, really well done FMV game in my opinion.
Mindy, did you have anything to add to Erica?
Haven't played it.
Oh, I thought you'd played this one. Sorry.
Nope.
No.
Sorry.
I played Ellen.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd played. I thought you'd played both. Yeah. Well, look, I think that it's interesting. I can't imagine playing this the number of times you require for the platinum, but the game, yeah, I agree with you, Velvet. It's interesting.
I mean, how many times do you have played? Because you played Man of Medan several times.
I think this is more.
Is it?
You have to play it 5 times.
Ooh.
Minimum 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still do it, but that is a lot.
Yeah, it's about 8 hours worth. So the game itself is only like an hour and a half, 2 hours, if that.
It's one of these hard things, I think, because, I mean, Man of Medan was similar, but it opened out. But I find myself, I just like one story. So I like to play it once, and that's the story that I got, I think. And I understand to get the trophies, you have to do different things multiple times. But maybe it's a game like you come back to and play when you've forgotten, and you do another playthrough, I suppose. That could be a nice way to do it. But yeah, I don't know. Now, Ellen, now this is completely different, isn't it, Mindy? Sorry about that.
That's a pixelated horror game. So, a little different. Just a little.
It's a little different.
It is. Does Erica have horror elements in it or no?
This also doesn't take 5 playthroughs.
I wouldn't say horror, so to speak.
When you download it, the game icon looks like she looks scared.
Well, I mean, it's not even a spoiler, but someone did just leave a hand in a box in front of her door. Like that's the story is built off of that. So I feel like if that happened to me, I'd be like, I'm a little concerned.
No, look. I mean, we're talking around it, but it is very good. If you enjoy the FMV genre, that's definitely one to check out. Yeah. So, Mindy, Ellen.
Yes, Ellen. It's a pixelated, and I'm about to compare it to something that I should have put on the list and didn't. It's a pixelated horror, kind of a psychological horror game, and you're an investigator who. So this family has been murdered, and Ellen has gone missing. And so you've been hired to figure out what happened to the family and find the daughter, who is Ellen. And there's paranormal stuff. It's it's creepy. It does a really good job setting a creepy atmosphere, especially with its the pixelated art style. I don't think it was the best port of controls from PC to console. I think I don't think you can remap buttons, but I wish you could. I would compare this to and say it's lesser than The Last Door, which is also a pixelated psychological horror game that came out on console this year. I think Last Door is better, but they're both pretty good bets. But if I had to pick one, I would definitely say Last Door. I think it's got a better story. I think it's more evolved, and I think it's a lot creepier, to be honest.
Excellent. Well, that was a lovely 2-for-1, listeners. We got some Last Door and Ellen. And now, Mindy, we're going to stay with you because I know you're familiar with this game. Another Sight.
Yes, that's the one. It's I guess it's kind of a puzzle minor platformer. That's the one with the blind girl. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland in a steampunk uh London, basically. And it's the girl and her cat, the blind girl and her cat she's trying to find her father. Not a particularly involved story, but it's a gorgeous game and there's a lot of charm to it. Recommended. Not a ton of people have played it. It really flew under the radar. It wasn't helped by the fact that the trophies went live like 6 months after the game came out, but definitely recommended.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it also released on all different stores at different times, months apart as well, which probably didn't help it. But no, you're right.
You're right. I think this is on the Hong Kong store for like 4 months and then all the other stores got it.
Did you ever play Beyond Eyes?
I did, yes. I think this is better.
Okay.
Mostly because, your character is blind. That does not mean you are blind. So like Beyond Eyes, the whole conceit was you could not see anything.
Right.
Except your character. One is
Hmm.
she can move. You as the player can see things. It's just that sometimes she won't interact with something unless the cat meows to kind of, I guess, echolocate for her. But the majority of the time, no. It's pretty easy to forget that she's blind, quite honestly, because she'll do most things that you tell her to do. You as the player will see, oh, I need to pull this lever. So you'll move her and say, hey, pull this lever. And she'll be like, oh, okay, I'll pull the lever. But no, it's charming. It's a pretty easy 100%. Nothing is missable because there's scene select. Again, recommended. Yeah. But I think this one's a little pricier. I think this is like $20. I think it should be about 10. 20 is not bad. I think for the length, it should be 10 or 15.
Perhaps wait for a sale.
Yeah, but it is. I do recommend it though.
It's nice, and yeah, there's some interesting interactions in that game, isn't it, with the people you meet along the way. So it's clever. I like it. Yeah. So let's move on to Story of a Gladiator. So a recent release. I mean, we could throw this in the spam pile. It's just basically a clicker. If you like those type of loops, very addictive loops or whatever else. This one is set in a coliseum, and you just survive, or you just fight waves of enemies. There are 3 sets or 3 campaigns, I suppose, each of 10 levels, so 30 levels in total, each with a boss fight at the end. The trophy list is, look, it's pretty straightforward. There is a bit of a difficulty spike at the end, so it will depend on how you sort of are with these sort of hack and slashy type dodging things. There is a skill tree of sorts or whatever else, and a few ads, like you can have an animal, I found out the other night, which is fantastic to help you out and things. But look, it's a good little time waster game. I mean, if you're familiar with these games, you can probably do it in 2 to 3 hours, if not perhaps a little bit longer, just to 3-star every level. But look, it's fine, and it is a double stack. It's also very very reasonably priced. So that is.
And it just got a patch.
Yes, it did. So my understanding is the EU version was always fine, the Amulet Trophy, but the NA version was not. But that has been fixed. Or
Right.
yeah. So no, it is fully attainable. There is depending on your skill. If you're very good at these games, there will be a money grind at the end. If you take a few attempts to complete some of the waves on 3 stars, then you'll probably acquire the money as you go. But look, the money is it's not a major grind or anything else, and you do have options to take more money over sort of skills earlier in the game. So if you want to shorten the time load line down, that's what you would probably do. But look, as I said, quite enjoyable. So the next one now, Simulacra. So this is a game I'm sure that will interest both of you in time when things slow down. This is an FMV of sorts, not like the traditional FMVs. Are you familiar with this, Velvet, this game? Or
I actually saw the videos of this yesterday because I think I saw it in the store and I was like, what is this? And it looks really interesting. So I'm glad you played it because I want to know about it.
Yeah. So I put about 2 hours into it, so there's not a lot. I didn't look for any information on the game, so I sort of did the puzzles myself. So imagine, if you're a bit quicker on these things, that 2 hours would be a lot less time. But it's interesting. So the premise is that you have a phone. You don't really know who you are or your relationship to the girl who owns the phone, but there's a series of messages, some videos, some audio things. Her equivalent of a Grinder app on there as well, her equivalent of a Facebook app on there as well, and her email. So you start off very basically, and you have to unlock things. So you have to, all the information you need is hidden around the phone in messages or in photos and things to unlock the email or to unlock the social media and things. And each time you unlock something, it sort of pushes the story on, I suppose, or whatever else. It's a what's the, I don't want to say supernatural. I suppose it's a
almost like a detective
yeah,
game.
it's very much a detective game. The premise is that the technology gone mad. I suppose that's obvious from the beginning. So it's a little sci-fi, I suppose I should say. It's interesting though. It plays with a really cool mechanic that I haven't come across before. In the text messages, you'll see a line, and there might be one that's missing, or one it's not missing. It's sort of scrambled out, and you'll have the option to repair it. And so what that does when you go in is it'll give you all the words in the sentence. It capitalizes the first, full stops the last, and you need to put them in the correct order to make the sentence. So, and you can sort of do that by reading what came before and after it. So it starts off very easy, but then it gets quite complicated. There's some sentences or multi-sentences with 30 plus words in it. And some of the words, the sentence could read either way, or the sentences. So it's interesting, a bit of trial and error, I think, to find that. And then it also does this weird picture game as well, where for the pictures, you have to move the static around the screen. So to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure how that still works after having done about 10 of them, but it seems to work. So it is interesting. One thing I'd suggest, I don't know, I think the trophies will be quite complicated in this game. I don't think it's going to be a one playthrough game. And it's a game that really requires you to read everything. So if you're not prepared to engage with it, then it might be a game to pass, because the in the emails, there's a lot of emails. Some I think are just junk, but some of them have little hidden things like birth dates or little things. And then half an hour later, you'll get to something where you need to know that information and you can't actually go back. There's time sequences. So it really relies on you reading a lot of things. I think it does have jump scares as well, which I wasn't expecting. So
Really?
yeah, in the videos in particular. So it's a little, I want to say Blair Witchy, but obviously it's not, it's not set in a forest, but that idea where everything's normal and then all of a sudden it's not. So it's good. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. It's very interesting. It's not your traditional FMV by any stretch of the imagination. So that's good.
If I can chime in here
Mm.
a bit, if you are familiar, generalized you listeners, if you're familiar with Her Story,
Mm.
which is a PC FM, it's kind of that idea where it's not traditionally FMV. It's, within Her Story, what you were doing was looking at interrogation tapes and you get little snippets, and Simulacra, it's your phone. If you're on the fence about this and you don't, because I think it's another $20 game
Yes.
on a console. If you're on the phone about this and you can play PC, this developer, this is kind of their jam. Kine Games. They made a game it's free. It's a name your own price thing, but you can get it for free. And it's on itch.io, and it's called Sarah is Missing. It's the exact same concept. You have a phone. You have Sarah's phone. You're going through her text messages and her social media to try to figure out what has happened to Sarah. So it basically, think of it like a beta demo for this. It's not exactly Simulacra, but you get a good idea of the mechanics and whether or not you would like that.
I wonder if that's what the sim.
Like a SIM card. Ooh.
Well, there is a lot of things at play there. I won't go into that, but that's a definite possibility there. Yeah. Look, I would. It's a very polished and finished product as well. There's no question about that. But if you're used to your FMVs where you choose directions or text choices, this one is definitely got a detective element to it. You're going to have to put some legwork in to move forward with that. So interesting game. Now, Arise. I'm not sure, Velvet, if you're familiar with this game.
It reminds me of Effie.
Yes.
That's what I thought of when I first saw it. So I didn't look too much into it because I'm still a little I like Duffy, but I don't want to play another game like it anytime soon. So I did pass on.
Yeah, I mean that's a good analogy. Arise, a simple story. So I've been interested in this game since they put a sizzle reel at E3 for it. It is like FE, but not. I don't want to say not as platformy, although it's definitely not. It's more. I mean, it's an interesting mechanic. It's a highly beautiful game. I mean, it's a walking sim, I suppose you could say. When the mechanic at play here is that you can change the time or the season with the left stick. So in the first level, you can be in summer, but sometimes you need to get across the water, so you can move to winter. It's very quick, and then obviously things ice over, or a boat might come if you rise the water up, and so it's very light puzzlistic elements to it. Each of the levels I've played, I think 4 of them so far. Each of them is radically different. Each of them, probably takes around 20 minutes. There are secret collectibles that are very well hidden in there as well. But it's a very sad story overall. I won't go into it to spoil it, but it's beautiful. It's also one of those games where there's no spoken word, so you have to do the sort of engagement to see what the story is. I suppose it's there if you want to.
You have to interact with
Extend
the
yourself.
world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if you don't want to, it's a really beautiful world either way. Apparently, it is kind of a challenging platinum, because some of the later levels you have to pass doing certain requirements, like only standing on certain colored stones or something like this. So I think perhaps the platinum is difficult, but I mean, if you're just playing the game, obviously, the flow of the game, it doesn't do that. I really like it. I think for the price, it's about a quarter or a half price game, depending on the store you're looking for. I think it's worth it. And I don't think, I agree with you. I thought Effie was fantastic as well. I thought perhaps it was a little bit long for my liking, but then that's me. This is a much more bite-sized sort of thing.
Okay.
And each one is quite different. So I would recommend this. And look, I know I'm going on here, listeners, but this obviously is my little segment here, this bit. The last one I've got for you is, now this is an interesting one. It's funny that I've played this, because I think this game is much better suited to both of you. Where the water tastes like wine. So you know a little of this, Phil.
A little.
You mean it's not the sequel to Where the Bees Make Honey, but every time I hear the title of this game, I think it's related. And that does this game a great disservice, because it looks gorgeous.
It does. Yeah, they're nowhere comparable to each other. But this is a deja vu game for me. I don't know how else to describe it, because I swear I was talking about this with somebody, but one of my friends last week was like, hey, are you getting this game? Are you interested in this? And I told him, I was like, I don't know if I've ever heard of this game before. But then I saw the trailer and I was like, no, this looks way too familiar. Like, I feel like I've seen this, but I have passed on it for now, just because I'm kind of crunched for time at this moment. But I did see it on your list, so I'm happy that you played it.
Yeah, look, this is a flashback. If you're a child of the 80s, or potentially later, but particularly of the 80s, and you liked your choose your own adventure books, I don't know if they interest either of you. That is what this game is. It's a dolled up, it's graphicked up. Obviously, we're in the 21st century now, but at its core, it's a choose your own adventure. So you're a character walking, giant character or whatever, walking on an overworld map, if you like, of the US, and you meet characters, or you can stop off on cities at cities, and you interact. It's a narrative game. You interact, but you choose who you want to interact with. They're all marked, and then you choose the dialogue options, and it extends the story that way. So just like a choose your own adventure book, you can't explore all paths. Obviously, you need to start making decisions. And from the amount that I've played so far, it's obvious that the decisions you make open up story branches or close you off from story branches. So I think this is going to be a very big game. For trophies, I'm sure it will be very big, but just in scope as well. It also has other elements. It has an inventory system, which surprised me. So you can barter in goods and things as well, which certain people will need. And it has a really interesting moral system in the game, where you'll meet at campfires at night, if you like. As you're traveling along, you have the option to sort of stop, and they're your save points, if you like. And you'll interact with a character, and they'll be like, tell me a happy story, tell me a sad story, tell me a life story, all these different things. And you get to pull from the stories you've heard during that day from the people you've spoken to. So you have to start making decisions. And of course, you need to listen to what the character's saying to see what they would feel is happy or sad or a life experience story depending on their situation, not so much on yours. And they are sort of pass or fail things. They don't stop you from moving forward, but I'm sure they're actually, altering the overall course of the game. So look, I don't know. I imagine writing a guide for this game would be a nightmare, Velvet, because of all the
It sounds
possibly.
so interesting, though. I'm just like,
Yeah.
man. So you're kind of saying if somebody was like, oh, I really miss my dog, tell me a happy story. You want to look for a story that had a dog or something in it, like something that related to that?
Yes, yeah. And of course, you might pick up, I mean, you could walk straight up the map and you'd have no stories to tell them. If you just went from campfire to campfire, but if you stop off at the different towns, you'll pick up different stories. But it start off, the first campfire is very easy, but then the second one, the stories you get, they're both happy and sad. They're no clear-cut stories. They become it's almost there's good things in that story, but also there's an underlying sadness because they lost their brother or whatever, and so it becomes more difficult to decide what is the type of story that they want to hear. And it's almost disheartening because when you tell the story, if they like it, they're like, oh, that was a fantastic story, or they'll just say, oh, I was hoping for more or so much more from you. And you're like, oh,
like, but I just
want to
told
go
you
back
this
and
whole story.
yeah, I want to go back and tell you the other story now, but you can't go back. So it's
Oh,
great.
man.
So yeah, it's good. It'll be a massive time sink or whatever else. But look, check out a video if that does interest you. But if you do like that idea of choose your own adventure and moving the story forward, I would highly recommend this game. It's lovely. So that brings us to Pantsu Hunter, Mindy.
Yes. It's cute. Like, you would think it's a pervy little game. It's not. There's some good humor in it. This is kind of in the same vein as the next one, so I kind of think maybe we'll tackle both these together. They're very short, kind of visual novel segments, but the main idea of this is to it's again, it's kind of a choose your own adventure, isn't it? It's, and those choices lead, sometimes it leads to good endings and sometimes it leads to bad endings, and despite that whole, or within that whole kind of spectrum of visual novel, you're also looking for underwear. There are trophies for doing this, and sometimes, getting, collecting these panties, sometimes the girls give them to you based on the choices you make, and sometimes you have to, eeky sneak around and find them. It sounds like a perverted game, and it's really, really not. I liked this one. I didn't like the fact that for one level you have to fix this girl's computer 6 different times, and the mini game you have to do to fix it is really annoying. So that's unfortunate. But, everything has flaws, and I do recommend that. And in the same kind of vein is One Night Stand, where you're not looking for underwear in this one, but you are kind of poking around trying to figure out who this girl is that you've slept with because you remember nothing because you went and you got drunk and you woke up next to this girl. And sometimes your explorations can lead to bad endings, sometimes they can lead to good endings. And it's the same trophy wise, it's the same kind of idea as you want to see all of the potential outcomes to this. There are far fewer in One Night Stand than there are in Pantsu Hunter though. So maybe try, if you haven't played either of them, maybe try One Night Stand first. If you don't like how you play that game, then Pantsu Hunter's probably not for you. Because there's a lot more of the kind of start stop to get all of the endings of Pantsu Hunter than there is to get One Night Stand.
But both, a reasonable length, I think, a bite-sized length, really.
They don't overstay their welcome.
No, definitely not. So
for sure.
So that moves us on to, now this is an interesting one because we will get into, indie games of the year, but perhaps later in the year, we're almost at the end of the year. This is a tough one because this did come out, before this year, Gris. This, if we can, ignore the early release on the Switch, I suppose, it has finally come to PS4. This is a game that should be played. I mean, it's a phenomenal indie game. I think it's on another level. I mean, many of the games we're talking about today are on another level, I feel, as well, but I think this truly is. So again, it's a game that requires, interaction on your part to understand what's going on. There is no spoken word or whatever. It's a game about depression, about grief, about a girl's journey, I suppose, in a minimalistic way. If you're familiar with Celeste, this is also a platformer. This is it's nowhere near as difficult as Celeste or whatever else, but it's that idea, in a more abstract way, I suppose. One of the great things about this game is the use of color. The music score is phenomenal, and just how the game builds on itself. It's very simple by its nature. It only has a couple of sort of options or commands or whatever which you pick up as you go. But look, I don't want to go on about this game, but do yourself a favor, buy it for Christmas or something, and experience it for yourself, because it's fantastic. As far as a plat goes, it's also quite attainable, and it does have chapter select as you go for collectibles. But Mindy, it's a good game because there are only a handful of collectibles as well. There's not 100 of them, which is nice. In this 3 to 4 hour experience, I want to say, in that realm. Please stop me if you have something to say, because I see the next one is probably me as well. And this is the Lost Ember. So I might do as Mindy did. I'll tie this in with Spirit of the North. I don't want to be unfair here to Spirit of the North, but as it did come out first, but unfortunately, it is almost a poor man's Lost Ember, I feel, at this point. If you're tossing up between the two, I would definitely go with Lost Ember. It's an interesting game. I think as far as trophies and collectibles go, it is an absolute nightmare because nothing is marked on the map. So you basically would almost need to go at that from the beginning. If you wanted, it does have chapter select though, which is good, but not all of the collectibles are actually tracked in the chapter select menu either. So consider that or whatever else. But if you can leave that aside, it's incredibly beautiful. It's a game where you play as a fox, but you can metamorphosize yourself into other animals and possess them if you like. I think there's something like 20 or 30 animals that you can be throughout the game, right from a small bee or a little fish right up to bigger animals. And there is an overarching story there as well. It's a really lovely game. It's beautiful.
How would you? I'm gonna bring in a game that I think we covered in the last indie roundup, but I know I've talked about on the show. The First Tree. It's another play as a fox. Collectibles are a nightmare. How would you? Because I know you've played all three. How would you rank it? For various amounts of time. How would you rank it? First Tree between Lost Ember and
Spirit of the North. Yeah.
yes.
I'd put Spirit of the North as third, at the bottom at third. Not, as I said, not because there's anything wrong with it, but it's basically a walking sim platform as a fox with no real story. There's very loose narrative thread there, and it's fine for what it is. It's a tougher decision between Lost Ember and the First Tree. I think many people will enjoy Lost Ember more than the First Tree. For me personally, I found the story really beautiful in the First Tree. I understand the collectibles were a nightmare, and I didn't bother with that side of it, but I found the overall story beautiful, and I think it was a little bit more contained. In Lost Ember, you're basically put, I don't want to say open world, but open section you're dropped into. So there's more of an exploring element. And I know there was a little bit of that in the First Tree, but not as much. I think the production values are much higher in this game as well than the First Tree. So I think for me, the story was better in the First Tree, but I think the gameplay is much more developed in Lost Ember. There's a lot more here to be seen. But I think that's also reflective in the price as well. I think this is coming in at close to a full price game. I don't think the First Tree's been out for a while. Yeah, but look, I definitely recommend playing both of them. I think they're both great. Now, who wants to tackle this one? Afterparty.
Oh no, we're on Cat Quest.
Oh, we are too. I just because I didn't want to. Cat Quest 2. Well, what more to say about this? This. I know, Mindy, you're looking at starting your Cat Quest journey soon. I don't know. Have you played Cat Quest Velvet or Cat Quest?
I have not. No, it's the one franchise that I should, but I have not.
Look, it's a great time filler game. Like there is a story there. It's all you've got to read it all if you want, but you don't have to engage with it. It's just like a dungeon crawler, if you like, as a cat, which is pretty awesome. And there's two cats this time. You can play in co-op, or you can just switch between your characters. It's got basic RPG leveling up system. Your hack and slash character or your magic character, distance character, and it's great. Yeah, I'm not finished it, but it's not hugely difficult or whatever. It plays on that dopamine rush of a game where every time you do a quest, you level up pretty much. So you're continually getting rewarded. You're not in that. It's not one of those JRPG loops where you're grinding for ages to move up to the next level. This is continually, of course, the dungeons are level gated, but because you're moving up so quickly, if it's a 10 level above your dungeon, you're going to be there, within 15 minutes or something. So it's lovely. It's a lovely game, I think. But I don't want to say a time waster, but it fits into that category. yeah, of enjoyable. Yeah. And then I suppose we better do a little bit of this Narcos, Rise of the Cartels. So this is I mean, this is a strategy game. I think a top-down strategy game. It's more complex than I first thought. There's a lot in this, based obviously on the TV show. It has the characters, not the voice actors. It has about 10 minutes of the show interdispersed in cutscenes throughout it. I really like the system of you have your operatives, if you like, or your other foot soldiers, for whatever better term, and they can die in the mission, and if they die, they're dead, they're gone. So you need to be a little bit careful, but sometimes sacrificing them is not so bad, because you can train up and buy or hire, I should say, hire more. You can play on both sides. I didn't realize that. I thought when I started you could only play on the law side, but you can play as after you finish the first section, you can switch and play on the cartel side as well. So look, it's interesting. It's not. I thought perhaps the AI was on a firm loop, so with a guide it would be easy. That's not quite the case. It is a bit randomized, so you do need to learn the systems or whatever. I think it's around a 15-hour plat with some grinding involved. But yeah, if you're into those strategy sort of games, I would recommend it. It does pick up in difficulty as well, so you can't sort of just hope to get through it. You do need to pay attention as it goes. So
You can play this without watching the show. Like, that doesn't really matter. You can still enjoy it.
yeah, you could. I think it would. I think it would add if you had seen the show. I mean, the show is fantastic. So, it would place the characters. But even if you didn't know that, see the show, Escobar or whatever else, you understand the basic principle of what's going on. But yeah, no, you definitely could. Yeah, yeah. If you just played it as a top down strategy game. Some of the mechanics are interesting. So it like a lot of these games is trying to incorporate other elements of different genres. So even though it is a turn-based top-down strategy game, there is some actual, I suppose, live action, you could say, in shooting as well. Mini games almost within it. It's hard to explain, but as soon as you've played it, you'd see where quite a few of the trophies are actually tied up in that. So it's almost like a game of chess, but with a few random elements that can really fuck you over if you're not careful. Or it gives the AI a good chance to get you when you thought you had them down, or vice versa. You can also get out of it sometimes. So yeah, it's an interesting systems at play. Now, Afterparty. Who would like to finally Afterparty? Who would like to attack?
Well, none of us have played it. I know CJ, you've owned it. You own it. It's on your list. You haven't played it yet. But I know Zach would get upset if we didn't mention it. I will say it is by the devs of Oxenfree. Was gosh, when did that come out? That came out in 2016, I want to say, maybe 2017.
Really? That long ago?
Mm-hmm. On PS4.
Yeah.
I think it was 2016. So if you liked Oxenfree, if you like these kind of micro character examinations, you'll probably like this one. That's the one that's the drinking competition with the devil. Like, you and your friend are in hell and you have to get super drunk, right?
It's one of these games, Mindy. I've started it like twice now, and it's a bit like reading a book, I suppose. Well, I suppose it depends on yourself, or a visual novel. It's a game where you probably can only play this and nothing else when you play this, because it's more complicated than Oxenfree. In the narrative, there's you've got more conversations, there's more characters, the good evil system running in the background as well. There's a lot more going on. So not to say that it's unmanageable in any way, but it's a game I think you need to engage with fully. It would be perfect for you, Mindy, because you focus on one game at a time. But yeah, it's not an easy game to drop in and out of, I suppose, is where I'm heading. But it does, from what I've heard, it does sound very very interesting. So we'll see. Now, I think this is the right game, Velvet. Eastshade, where the monkeys, the high-class monkeys, the monkeys that are living above their station, I feel. Tell us about this game.
This is the gorgeous game. Yeah. Well, I think you may have played this more than I have. I did play a little bit of
Yeah.
it, but I haven't finished it yet. I'm kind of bummed. It's just, again, time constraints are killer this quarter. It's so hard to get things finished. Yeah, so you play sort of in a society of, like you said, like monkeys, just really advanced monkeys. But the game is, I can't get over how beautiful it is. Like, that's the one thing I just keep reiterating. You can just sit there for 10 minutes just staring at everything. But yeah, you can have conversations, meet all the primates in the towns and the cities and stuff. But yeah, I really want to go back and finish it so I can know more about it other than it's gorgeous.
It's a game based, the game loop is sort of the fetch quest type system, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
this is predominantly what's going on in this game. Yeah, it is interesting. And I believe it's okay now. At one point I think there was some worry about saves being corrupted or something, but I think it's all
Yes. Yeah.
sorted.
So I think that's partly why I kind of held off on playing it, because there's nothing worse than getting a corrupt save file when you're
No.
halfway through a game. And especially this one, I think you have to do it all in one go, if I remember correctly. Like, you can't skip anything. You have to like pick up everything along the way. So losing your save file is painful with games like this. So, but it has been fixed from what I was reading earlier today. So fingers crossed.
It was painful when I lost my save file for Windstorm. I can't imagine losing it in a game like this.
Yeah.
A game like this is interesting too, because it has no business as an indie game looking as good as it does it? I mean, it's
right?
No business.
Yeah. That's like, you look at it and you're just like, who
Yeah.
made this? And then you realize it's just like a small group of people. And it's just like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
what?
And as I've said before, listeners, a huge amount of harp, which is fantastic because there needs to be more harp in all games. So the music score
Harp and bassoon.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, could you imagine? Yes. Hopefully,
It'd be beautiful.
Yeah. Hopefully 2020 will be the year of the bassoon. It's been waiting for some time, so it's past due. Let's move it.
It's begun. It's already begun.
It's already begun. We endorse it. We endorse it here at Push2Plat. Dead or School. So this is an interesting game, Mindy. I don't know if you remember. I mentioned this quite some time ago. This was originally only available on the Japanese store, although playable in English or Japanese. It's a hybrid of everything. It's a VN. It's a Metroidvania. It's a hack and slash game. It's a detective game, very, very loosely in terms there. It's an RPG. I don't know what else it can be. It's everything. It's good. It's production. It's sort of in the middle, I suppose, and the price again is reflective of that. I almost want to say it's an action. This is a new term that I've heard recently, Mindy. An action visual novel, where have elements of actual gameplay in it as well. It's good. The trophy list is unmissable, my understanding. So you can move back through all levels, and it's uniquely Japanese. And I think having a quick look down the list and back up again, this is the only uniquely Japanese game we have on the list at the moment. And by that I mean that the story is crazy as fuck, which you expect from the Japanese or whatever else. You've been, there's been some sort of nuclear fallout or disaster on top, and you've all been living under the ground for generations. And, it's not really an explanation other than that for why. They're a bit vague, but that doesn't matter because what you're on is a quest, and you're on a quest to get to the surface to reach Mecca. Now, the Mecca is the school. For some reason, they believe that the school is the holy place. So, they've never seen it, obviously. They don't really know what happened there. But for some reason, they're on a journey, as the name implies, Dead or School, to reach the school. And from there, it's absurd, in the cutscenes, but absurd in a good way. And I think, there's a lot of these games, Japanese games, that the story is fantastical, but the gameplay really falls behind. In this situation, the gameplay actually stands up. I think so. Again, you could play this just for that and not engage with the story. I really recommend it. I think this is probably the game that will fly most under the radar, just because it, difficult to acquire. Although I believe there is a second stack that's either floating around or is coming to at least to the American store. I know it's been through the Hong Kong store as well. So that could be something to put on the list, or whatever else, something different if you so need it. Can we go Concrete Genie? Has anyone played this?
Not yet. Big emphasis on yet.
Yes, yeah. So this is obviously a first party release or whatever else VR game. Well, I mean, we can't really call it a VR game. There's a VR section, Velvet.
VR optional unless it's DLC, right?
Well, that's the only part you can do in VR is the DLC part. The actual base game
Oh,
you can't play in VR.
I
No,
thought the whole game was VR optional, and then the DLC was you had to have the VR.
no, I thought that too before I got it, but no, the game is just
Really?
a normal game. Yeah, the VR part. I mean, you do a lot of the elements that come from the game. You can do in the VR, but the base game, my understanding, is not VR. Yes, unless I missed something there. I'm pretty sure on that. Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to take a stab that I'm correct there, listeners. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I definitely played it in an on console. I haven't done the VR section yet. Look, it's fine. I don't know. I think it's beautiful. I think the concepts are fine. I think it's overrated for what it is. It's a very small game as well. It operates in just a couple of sections. The message is nice. It's very cartoony animation. Exaggerated or whatever else. And look, the story is nice about bullying as well. Although I think that it's one of these games. It's like a Disney ending. It's very happy ending. I don't think necessarily it's I don't want to come across as being down, listeners. But obviously a game compared to Life is Strange that that goes somewhere, has something to say about these and doesn't back away from it at the end. This is a game that has something to say, but does back away from it at the end. It doesn't say it. So, but look, it's a great family game, I think, as well. And on the flip side, if you leave the narrative alone, the actual creating and the painting is good. It's not as free flowing as you would think. You can't just paint whatever you want in the base game. You have to choose from designs. But one of the cool things is you can create these wall people or wall characters from the designs, and you can pick all the different parts, and then it will animate it, and it will follow you around. So that is a pretty cool thing, but it is what it is. I'm sure you already know about that. BDSM, Mindy.
It's just this is one of the
The
this is one of the
game.
great
Oh, it's
game
a game.
titles, and the trophies are fun too. I really want to play this.
Yeah, it's great. The big drunk Satanic Massacre. There are 2 stacks of this game. Look, again, it's absurd. I mean, if ever a game needed an R rating, it was this one. You have everything. I mean, even my understanding is there's multiple endings, like 8 or 9 endings. I don't think they're all required for the trophy, but many of them are, focus on different sexual practices at the end, and it's extreme. But at its core, it's a twin stick top-down shooter or whatever else. It has a good leveling system. It's very simple, exploratory in each of the maps, I suppose, to some degree, but quite linear as well, which culminates in a boss fight of sorts of an absurd creature. Usually, one of the funny things is the side quests from the NPCs, some tied to trophies. Not all of them, and they just get you to do absurd things like harvest the arms off people so you can cook them for the meals and stuff like this. It's this, you're getting the idea, Velvet, or there's a whole, which I quite like. There's a whole gay storyline to the game from the start, which you can choose to pursue, because there are romance options in this game as well. And so depending on whether you choose to pursue that or not, it leads to a certain ending as well, which is. It's fantastic, but anyway, we're probably not the place to go into that in this podcast or whatever else. But I found it amusing. The overall game is not that long either. 4 hours would see you through it, but with multiple playthroughs. I believe save states won't work for all the trophies. And it's got this cool feature that you can accidentally kill the NPCs if you get a bit trigger happy, which will will affect the quest that you can or cannot get as you go. So look, it's great. I don't know. It was a little pricey when it came out, so it's a speculative game or whatever. It's definitely not a kid's game, although look, kids play COD, so why not play this? But if you do play it with your kid, I'm sure you're going to have some interesting questions to answer there along the way. Now, Mindy, I know nothing about this next game, so I will throw it to you.
This next one, and I'm not as much because I haven't played it yet, and it is a little more AA than it is strictly indie. This is AI the Somnium Files. And it's a neo-noir detective game, so you're investigating crime scenes, kind of like Danganronpa, which is a little funny because this is actually by the guy who did the Zero Escape games, so there's a lot of visual novel in it. If you like Zero Escape, if you like Danganronpa, this is a good bet for you, and I say that having not played the game yet. I stand firm in that statement that it's a pretty good bet for you if you liked those games. Probably more if you liked Zero Escape than if you liked Danganronpa. My understanding, it doesn't have the kind of trial elements that Danganronpa did. It's much more about the investigation and the visual novel parts of it. So yeah, not strictly indie, but it's not a AAA game either. So I wanted to give it a shout out because I think despite the fact that it had some marketing, I think it kind of still flew under the radar. The price didn't help. This is a AA game, but it's still like $50, and I think it should have launched for 30 or 40.
This Mindy, it's definitely, I'm sure it's the case for you as well. I mean, it's a game we're both anticipating playing, but it's a time factor. But I think we almost need to do an episode now in the near future of the number of VN-esque games we have sitting in this backlog that we're trying to get to. Because there are some very good ones, aren't there? I mean, you've got your skip spam or whatever, but there are some very good ones as well that we're sitting on. So we will need to get there. Now, Velvet, Agent A.
This one, it's actually kind of funny because Velvet did message me and she said, "Hey, are you gonna do a walkthrough for Agent A?" And I said, "No, I didn't have any plans to." And she was like, "Really? This is right up your alley." And then she did a walkthrough and she did a beautiful walkthrough. She puts much more effort into making her walkthroughs look nice than I do. She put in pictures, she did video guides for it. I just write it out in text. I don't like taking screenshots and doing all that, so I just write everything out and I put it out there. Velvet's is much more of a production.
See, listeners, now this is a case in point that mediation can work. Seek counseling, and you can come to a position where you both mutually respect each other's work. And even though we couldn't put them in the same room today for various legal reasons, they are now happy to talk together about a game that Mindy has been happily passed over to Velvet. So in case, Velvet, let's talk about this game. Agent A, the 2-hour experience that has a speedrun trophy, I believe.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this game. When it comes to this is basically a point and click game for those who haven't played it, but it's a almost like satirical. Like there's a lot of sarcasm, a lot of humor in the game that makes it much more fun. And obviously, there's a bunch of puzzles and collectibles that you need to do. So for that reason, that's usually like again, I reached out to Mindy just like, are you gonna do this? Like I feel like this is screaming your name right now. So when she said no, I was really surprised. I was like, well, one of us has to. So, but yeah, no, it's about 2 hours, but there is that speedrun trophy. So I do recommend doing 2 playthroughs so you can get just your first run just needs to be fun. Don't worry about getting the trophies as they'll most likely come along the way. And then the second run should just be the speed run. But I did enjoy it. You just play as a spy who has been kidnapped by another spy. You need to escape the spy. So lots of spy hidden puzzle action going on, but it was really fun. It was really fun.
I only played the first section of it, but I just kept getting this image of this Maxwell Smart type of situation here. So.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Mindy would be all over this. I'm not sure if you've played it yet, Mindy, but you would be all over this.
It's downloaded on my system, and every time I'm ready to start a new game, like not for side events or anything, I'm always like, "Ooh, is it Agent A time?" But then I always get sidetracked by something else. I'm really bad about it, and I really, really want to play it.
It's not going anywhere.
So
and they are
people jump.
No, that's right.
Listeners jump on me. Be like, "Have you started Agent A yet?" And don't let. I'm gonna regret these words, but don't let up until I do it.
Yeah, if you did enjoy this one, Agent B is going to be coming out. I don't know if it's in the near future, the sometime future.
Oh wait, is that not a joke?
It's not a joke. No, he was not kidding. So, because it leaves you like with a little bit of a lead in to the next one, anyways. But yeah, no, he was just like, "Oh, I hope you can't wait till Agent B," and I was like, "Well, just let me know when it comes out because I would love to play it. I really enjoyed this one."
Well, look, listeners, that is 36 games and change we have dropped on you today. So I'm gonna open the floor here. This is the last chance. Say your piece or forever be happy. Well, at least for today. Velvet, is there something we missed you'd like to throw out? Or Mindy, something else that we burningly need to share?
I don't think so. I'm looking through your list because I feel like there was a game that I wanted to ask you about, and I forgot.
That is a dangerous thing to do, Velvet. Many people have got lost there. I gave that up a long time ago.
Like, just don't look. Just don't look.
For me, there's nothing I want to add. I do just want to reiterate that all we did was cover games that at least one of us have played, with the exception of 2 or 3 that we were just keeping track of. So we're well aware there's a lot more. This is a good. This is a good. You're right. This is a good year for indies, I think.
This was a crazy year for indies.
Yeah, no, I agree, and as we said earlier, it's just amazing how many have come out in this quarter against a lot of the AAA games, and they're holding their own, which is fantastic.
Oh, definitely.
Fantastic to see. So
Yeah.
So last time we did top 3. Are we gonna do that again this time? Out of everything we just went
please,
over,
yeah,
top 3.
Everything we
Yeah.
just went over. Okay.
for the second half of the year, Push2Plat top 3. Who wants to kick us off? Mindy, have you decided? Seeing you thought of this idea, or
Well, I mean, Obra Dinn's gonna be on there. I'll throw Bone to True Fear, and then my third. It really depends. We didn't technically talk about Last Door. That technically did not come out during this time frame, but I will give a shout out because I don't think we talked about it last time either.
I think you were waiting on the patch last time.
I was waiting on the patch because you couldn't get the platinum, and now you can. And then I just haven't gone back and finished the walkthrough. I don't know if I can cut it to 3. You know, I want to throw it at AI because I know I'm gonna like it, even though I haven't started yet. In the same vein, I probably want to throw it to Agent A. I know I'm gonna like it, even though I haven't started it yet. This is a better half of the year for me, I think, indie wise, than the first half of the year.
and Velvet?
All right, so I'm looking at 3. Yeah, okay. So Deemo, Reborn, I have to throw in there just because I'm absolutely in love with that game, and I'm pretty sure I'll keep playing it even after I get the platinum, just to try to get as much 100% on those sheets as possible. And then Woven, of course, little fluffy elephant. And for the third one, I'm probably gonna choose Niffelheim for it. I couldn't decide between a few, but again, that game just flew under the radar pretty hard, and I think it deserves a lot more light than what it's getting. So I'll definitely choose that one. And
Mm.
man, I really want to play Where the Water Tastes Like Wine now. Like you sold me on that game. I was like,
Oh, you are gonna love it, and I'm gonna keep that outside of my top 3 only because I mean it's a massive game, and I haven't seen the rest that it has to offer. But look, I think that's definitely a highly honorable mention, as is Arise. But I think my top 3, I'm gonna put Deemo at number 3. I think you're right, Velvet. That is something special all the way around, and I look forward to trying that in VR. I'm gonna put Equal first. I think a Dead or School. I think I have not seen a game that offers both strong gameplay and also the absurd nature of a Japanese story hand in hand, done so well. And I think that truly is something special across this year. And then I'm going to go, even though look, is it even an indie? Probably not, because Square's publishing it and they have plenty of money. But I think it's going to be tough for a game to be better this year for me because of the story. I'll have to put Life is Strange 2 as number 1. And I can hear you yelling, well, that's not even a game. But then, look, I'm not even a trophy hunter sometimes. So, like it all is what it is, I think, But look, I don't think you can go wrong with any of those 36 games, to be honest with you. I think
it's a
they're
pretty
all
good list.
fantastic. Look, it's great. We're self-congratulating ourselves now, listeners. But I want to congratulate you too, because that was a massive effort to get through here. But hopefully now there's something, something here for you as well that you can go, oh, I've never considered that. I'm gonna give it a try. So, look, I think what we might do at this point is we're not gonna do we want to do spam, Mindy, or have we done enough games?
It's been a special episode. We didn't even do new releases. Let's end it on a high note.
Yes, I think so. I think so too. So, Velvet, I'd like to thank you again for giving us your time. I do really appreciate it. One of the great things in talking to people about games is it's really clear who's full of shit and who really knows their stuff. And every time I speak to you, I feel I need to bring my game or knowledge of games, because you definitely know. I know that I can't bullshit you. So, look, I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate your time, as I said, and insights. Thank you so much for joining myself and Mindy. For the second time this year. And look, if we haven't overextended the friendship, the band here, I would love to get you on again next year to carry on into 2020 with indies.
Oh, yes, of course. I would love to come back.
Oh,
So thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. If we're trying to find you, where can we find you, Velvet?
Well, now that I'm all fixed on my profile, you can find me on Twitter at 8bitsofvelvet, and on PlayStation, on the network, or on any of the Trophy websites. You can either find me as Velvet, or on PSN, it's Blood_Velvet.
Perfect. And look, I'm going to be forward here if you're not going to be. Velvet is a fantastic guide writer, as is Mindy. They do write these guides for free. It is expensive to create content, as I'm sure you, the listener, know. So while you sponge up all the content you can, it does help them survive if you can reciprocate with some financial aid. And Velvet, you do have a Patreon, I believe, established?
I do, yes. It's 8 Bits of Velvet, same as everything else. We'll be starting back up in January. I did take December off just because it's been a crazy game month. I needed to get a breather before continuing on. But again, a little bit goes an incredibly long way with this stuff. Even the smallest donation can buy the smallest indie game. And it just goes straight back to the community and straight back to indie developers. So yeah, if you can help, I would greatly appreciate it.
And the omnipotent Mindy, where can we find you?
At the Mind is a City. I don't have a Patreon. I do have a coffee. ko-fi.com/the mind is a city. Velvet, I know you have donated to me before, so thank you. And it, like Velvet said, this is expensive. There's, a lot of games that we just mentioned that I would like to buy and maybe guide, because I think a lot of these don't have guides.
They don't. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. It's like, Mindy, we got to get to work.
Right?
I was just thinking as you laughed there, if you ever need someone to test the first 5 minutes of any of these guides, I would be more than available. Anything after the first 5 minutes, you would need to subcontract out, but I'm available for that amount of time. So look,
we just need to know that the first trophy pops.
That's right. Right. That's right. I can give you the rundown on the title screen. Other than that, I'm not so sure. So look, listeners, if you're trying to find the show, we're available on all good podcast providers, plus YouTube. If you'd like to reach out and say hi to us with a question, comment, or concern, you can reach us on Twitter at Push2Plat, push the number 2Plat, or you can send us an email at push2plat@gmail.com. We also have a Discord. Please feel free to come in and say hi. There's some lovely, lovely people in there as well. And you can always ask us a question or pose any thoughts for the show in there as well. I think that's covered everything. Oh, we do have a PlayStation 4 community as well. It's becoming more active, which is very exciting. That's a great place for you to share the platinums you've got, maybe a little bit about the game or what you thought, to inspire us to find new games or to try things we've been sitting on the fence about. So, as always, listeners, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful week as we count down towards the end of the year. Be good, be well. Thank you, Velvet. Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you for having me, and happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.